All right. Here, I'll play the music. Yeah, what state? Do you want to say what state? Okay, so I can hear myself fine. Can you hear me, Creepin?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. What do you want to say? What state you live in?
Oh, I live in Massachusetts.
Oh, Massachusetts. Hell yeah.
Yes.
Right on, East Coast. So how far was your flight then to how many hours did it take to fly to yeah.
I think it was
Chicago.
2.5. The flight back was faster. It was around
Okay.
I think it was around like hour 45 for the flight back. The only thing was in the flight back, it kept getting delayed because I don't with like the shutdown and everything like that. I guess like, a bunch of planes are getting delayed. So my plane was like I was supposed to leave at around like 9:00, and I didn't end up leaving Chicago till like almost basically like 3-4 o'clock. So I got home like, which was a pain. But the guy was like, "Oh yeah, one of our computers went down," and I was like, "Well, I'm glad you fixed that before we went in the air because I'm not trying to go down. I'm not trying to go down.
I'm not trying to have a true horror story.
Yeah.
Happen.
I like Creepin, but I don't know if I like it enough to do that bit.
Yeah. No. Fuck no. He died going to see his favorite podcast. Yeah.
Died doing what he loved. I tried because on the flight they have like the like little TVs obviously, and I tried finding because they have podcasts on there, and I was like, they gotta have Creepcast for me. It's a popular podcast, but unfortunately the whatever system they use, they didn't have it. So I luckily downloaded a few episodes, so I was able to watch them.
Hell yeah, that's funny. What podcast did they have? Like, what was it, like Joe Rogan?
They had like I don't even think it was no Spotify or Apple podcasts.
Oh, okay.
It was a lot of like older white women Bible podcasts,
like Earwolf podcasts, something.
Yeah, like old people stuff.
Yeah, they probably have whatever your airline was. They probably have like an exclusive deal with some podcast production studio where it's like they have lots of podcasts, but they're ones that you've never heard of before.
Yeah. It's like micro like Z-list celebrities that were on a TV show back in the day,
right?
And they're talking about their life or something. It was like scrolling through. They had like TV and movies, like all new stuff, which I was like, oh, cool. Right. I mean, actually, they were doing a special to watch all the Fast movies, and I was like seriously considering for a second. Like, damn, do I binge all the Fast? I start watching the Fast and the Furious movie?
Yeah.
One funny story about the flight was, so I was watching John Wick. And I don't know, you've been on a flight before? Like, the way the TV, like, you can't really, like, see what someone else is watching unless you're, like, next to them.
Yeah.
So there's a kid next to me who was watching, his screen wasn't working, where my screen was. And I'm watching John Wick, and I'm realizing maybe John Wick wasn't the most perfect thing to watch with a kid next to me. Yeah. So then he's like leaning over to watch, which I'm like, I don't know what to do here. But his mom was right next to me, and his mom was like grabbed him and like pulled him. And I was like she was probably like, don't watch John Wick. So I was like, let me just turn off John Wick for now and watch something else. My girlfriend was watching a Deadpool on the way up, and she had a similar issue.
Right. Having little kids like peeking behind the seats, and then their mom being like, stop it. Yeah, it's always a fun thing. Or like I mean, I've heard the horror stories that people have. Build's character, PB operator, says where people go there, they see some guy's phone like from behind or from like a few seats away, and they've got headphones in, and they're just watching on a flight hardcore pornography, and it's like, bro,
it's just a crazy thing to do. I'm sorry, but crazy thing to do. I get, do what you got to do, whatever. But
Yeah.
on the flight is low-key wild.
Yeah, no, on a flight is definitely too much, and then yeah, it's just crazy how comfortable some people are. Like, I'm a big guy, so I feel like I just encroach on everyone in a flight. So I'm like trying to make myself small and like, not talk and stuff like that. Whereas some people are just so comfortable.
Yeah. I respect the confidence of being able to do that. Like, I respect that part of it. Everything else about it, I'm like, listen, man, do your business elsewhere. Don't do this. Don't ruin this flight for me.
Yeah, you got a problem, maybe.
Yeah,
for sure.
You gotta see a doc. You gotta see a therapist or somebody about that.
For sure.
If you can't go a whole flight without it,
yeah. Well, anyways, welcome everybody to the RedDeathMask stream. I'm here today with my good pal, Professor Creepin. We are here to just chat a little bit. We'll probably be going on tangents, talking about Creepcast, our favorite episodes, stuff like that. But then we'll also be reading my story, a story written by yours truly, which is Jeff the Killer, The Ballad of Lou. So, and yeah, we'll be dissecting that with as much fervor as we would any other story. So that's kind of what's on the agenda today. And I appreciate you coming on, Creepin. I appreciate you watching my stream and like being a fan and stuff, but then also just coming on is super cool. So I appreciate it, brother.
Of course. Anytime. I'm glad we're finally able to do this. We've been trying to get it in the works for a while, but I'm glad we're finally able to do it, especially reading a story of yours after you've so kindly read so many of people on like the Reddit and the Discord and multiple other people's stories. I have to say, like, I have the utmost respect for you for being able to do that and really like putting people's work out there. Because I know a lot of people are watching streams and this is the first time they're ever seeing their story read by someone, and that can mean a lot to somebody. So I want to say I'm really proud and like I have the utmost respect for what you do.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Warm, fuzzy feelings. It's fun for me, and so that's why I do it. But to know that I'm kind of breaking through people's the drudgery or people's screens a little bit and just like actually making them feel like, wow, like someone cares to read my story. That's why I do it. I think that's one of the cool, good parts about the internet is that it enables us to, kind of do that. And I just want to be a small part of it. So thank you for saying that.
Of course.
So let's get in. I have a few pre-written questions down just so maybe, people can get to know you a little bit. But like what brought you, into watching Creepcast? How did that come to be? Were you just a fan from the very beginning or?
So I've been watching Creepcast since obviously the beginning. I got into Creepcast. I've been around since like very early days. So since it basically started, I was around when Wendigoon first posted the logo for it, and I don't know if you've seen this, but it's a way different logo. It's like purple and pink and looks like fantasy related. I'll send it to you after. But
I'd like to see that.
I was a fan of Papa Meat for forever. I mean, obviously Meat Canyon, then Papa Meat, and then Wendigoon. I found when he was very early starting out, like basically like early conspiracy theory iceberg, where most people kind of found it. So, for years, obviously, I was just watching them separately, and then one day, seeing that Ted the Caver episode post on Papa Meat, I was like, "Oh, this is such great! They have such great chemistry." Which I'm sure I don't know if you've seen other Meat Canyon related podcasts like Stretch and Fade. He's been on like TMG, obviously Super Mega, I think. But he has great chemistry with like so many people. But the chemistry he has with Isaiah was like maybe it was a little rocky at first, kind of. But the second I learned that they were making a podcast together, I was like, oh, wonderful. And he dropped all of their podcasts to basically not to do and kept this one going. This was like one of the only ones that he does now. And ever since then, I've just been a fan. I've been around in the fandom since early days. A lot of people know who I am. It's really fun getting to interact with the community and authors and all that fun stuff, but I love Creepcast as it is. I'm always gonna love it, unless something terrible comes out about one of them. But until then, I'm a Creepcast ride or die.
Yeah, ride or die. Yeah, and I mean, pretty much my My experience is, I would say, almost like identical. Except for I really didn't know much about Isaiah or Wendigoon until he started doing like some of the Papa Meat videos where they like talked about horror films, where they did like, so some of those ones before the Ted the Caver episode video came out.
Mhm.
I was becoming familiar with Wendigoon, but I hadn't like quite subscribed to him yet or watched like a lot of his videos, because I was just like, oh, conspiracy horror stuff, it sounds interesting, but I also, just whatever, was holding off. But then, yeah, as I've become a fan of the podcast more and more, obviously I've been more curious about, just Isaiah's other stuff. And so now I've gone back and I've watched like a lot of his catalog, like his, it's really fun to, because for a while there, I loved Creep TV too, and I watched a few of those episodes, but then I was really curious about like all the other analog horror that he had covered. So like I went back and watched those Mandela catalog videos, or those, just like the video games, the horror video games he's played and stuff. And it's been really fun to get back into that, after the fact. But yeah, the reason I ask is because I know people are still like kind of finding the podcast. It's still in the Spotify charts, and some people are saying I'm a new viewer. Which episode should I watch first, or blah blah blah. But yeah, and so I ask because I think most people are fans kind of from the very beginning, or have at least watched every episode now that are fans. But
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's important to kind of establish yourself as, are you like an OG, fan who's seen every episode, or are you one of these people, maybe you're a casual listener, maybe you don't listen to every episode all the way through, or whatever, but you still like it. So yeah, that's cool. I think that's interesting that we both kind of have pretty similar stories. I've been a Papa Meat fan for, since Meat Canyon, and then just I think I first, because I'm a big, this might not be a popular thing, but I'm a big H3 fan too. And so I've been, ever since like H3 would talk about him and watch his cartoons and stuff on, his podcast and stuff. And then so I slowly started to get more into his videos and stuff. And I love it. I mean, I love like his reality TV Papa Meats. Like, I'm watching The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives now just because I love those videos so much.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean, he's very talented.
yeah. Not to just glaze them up too much, but it's I think it's important to kind of establish. I think, and I don't think fans talk about this enough, but are you more Team Isaiah or more Team Hunter? I know I'm more Team Hunter, but then sometimes I switch, So where do you fall on that?
I think they both fill a very special niche, I guess.
Oh,
If
for
I
sure.
want to go more like logical or like analytical, I would say Team Isaiah.
Okay.
But I think I don't know if I can say this without being mean. I think the show could potentially work without Isaiah, but I don't think the show could work without Hunter.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, Hunter is such a
Yeah.
specific like chemistry based person where he brings stuff out of people.
Yeah.
Like that. Like, if you watch him on other podcasts, he brings stuff out of people. Where
For sure.
obviously I like the way the show is now. I don't want anyone else other than Isaiah. But
Yeah.
I think I'm 100% Team Hunter. He's just for me, he's like the funnier one. He's the one
Yeah.
that like has more, is like kind of loosey goosey with stuff, and is able to like poke fun at stuff, and also like make Wendigoon kind of out of his comfort zone in a way.
Yeah. Oh no,
Yes, Team.
and yeah, that's completely. Yeah, I agree completely, 100%. Sorry.
Mhm.
But yeah. Anyway, so I was gonna let you continue if you had more to say, but
No, I think
okay.
I think that I think that a lot of newer people are might be Team Isaiah because I know he's kind of popping off right now with like the second channel and things like that. And I think that from a lot of like the Reddit and stuff I see, a lot of people are introduced to this show through Isaiah, but because Papa Meat isn't really like, hey, by the way, I got this podcast.
Right.
Like you don't. Yeah, I mean, he's obviously associated with it, and he does like the live shows and things like that. But Hunter Isaiah seems like when you're an Isaiah fan, you probably watch everything.
Yeah.
And when you're a Papa Meat fan, you may not watch every single piece of thing that he does.
Yeah, that's true.
He's been around for like forever. He's been around. I mean, Papa Meat's been posting. Meat Canyon's been around since what, 2015, 2016?
Yeah, I mean, in YouTube years, he's definitely a veteran. You know, I won't go too much into his age, you know, because I know that's a point of contention. But
I know
he definitely, he definitely in YouTube years, he's definitely been a veteran on the platform now. But yeah, and I mean, I completely agree with what you're saying about like Wendigoon and the podcast couldn't happen without Hunter. I completely agree because I also think like Isaiah could, if he wanted to, have a creepypasta, whatever, horror story podcast, and he could read the stories and stuff, and analyze them and all that stuff. But it takes a little bit of Hunter's like pettiness and insanity to kind of, you know, really tear into stories or really go off the rails or really love some other stories. You know what I mean? So it just wouldn't be the podcast that it is. It could be something different where they just read stories and talk about them in a more kind of serious literature-minded way. But with Hunter, it's a comedy podcast too. You know what I mean? It makes it just puts it in that category where it's its own special thing, you know, that makes it special.
Great.
So that's right. Yeah, okay. Yeah, and that's you know, that's to say, you know, we love Isaiah too for his like earnestness and his, you know, whatever, like good Christian boy values, and it's only with Hunter, you know, next to that then everything kind of works out and they balance each other out, you know.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think it's just the way the chemistry works too a lot. Like they play so perfectly off each other, and like when one's down, the other one brings them up. And when one's like, also a lot of times they get not pleasure, I guess, but out of the other's misery. Like you could tell, Hunter despised I Dared My Best Friend, but Isaiah was having a great time, just like knowing the idea of like how much Hunter's hating this. But I also I do like. This is probably an earlier show thing. He doesn't really do it that much anymore. Maybe on one of the more recent episodes he has. But I like when Hunter gets serious and like is analyzing or really respects his story, and he's like really analyzing it because he's Hunter's a surprising, maybe not surprisingly. I don't mean it offensively, but he's a smart person, and like
for sure.
The goofy guy is just a character, really. Like he is a smart person, and he's a great creator, and he's a great writer and everything like that. I mean, watching his most recent short film, which was amazing. I just want to say that.
Oh yeah.
Like he's a good writer, and he knows like how stories should be working. So when he like gets serious about stuff and he like analyzes stuff, it's my favorite thing they do on the podcast. When he gets serious and starts like analyzing characters and things like that, which he doesn't do a lot.
No,
it happens very rarely.
Yeah,
but when it does happen, it's wonderful.
I agree, and I think that's something that because there have been, you know, Reddit's a cesspool in a lot of senses, but where people go like, you know, I don't think the podcast is as good as it used to be, or blah blah blah. I think what a lot of that is a little bit of like fatigue on their part of having to do it all the time, but also like I think a great example that you bring that up is like if you listen to like Gregory 88, for instance, that story. Yes, they have a bit of a crash out at the end and all that stuff, but throughout and really in the beginning, like Hunter's very into it, and that was the way it was with a lot of those like earlier stories. Like he whether or not they liked it at the end, he was very much like, uh into the analytical side of it, and like analyzing it and telling you what his artistic like feedback was on the story or the scene or whatever it was. And yeah, I agree that, like, I wish, or I hope that in the future they get back to more of that, where it's just reading the story, but that, like, Hunter will pause and kind of break down what he thinks of a specific
like critiques.
scene. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, I
uh,
agree completely.
yeah.
Russian Sleep Experiment is one of my more favorite episodes, because Hunter does an amazing deep dive, like 15-20 minute deep dive at the end of like what he would do different and
Mm-hmm.
how he would have adapted this in certain ways.
Right.
It's a really fun conversation that they had at the end of that, which they don't really do that anymore. Which I hate the Redditisms of like, oh, the podcast is different now, or
Yeah.
the social stuff of like, oh, I don't even think they're friends. Which
Yeah.
is like, oh,
Yeah, are they okay? Yeah.
are they okay? Like, calm
Yeah.
down, guys. Like,
Yeah, chill the fuck
they have
out.
one bad episode, and the Reddit like freaks out. And it's like, calm down.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there still be more podcasts. Like, it's still gonna be happening. I
For
get
sure.
having like maybe some criticisms here and there. That's perfectly fine. But like, if every episode you're just like, this episode freaking sucks.
Yeah.
It's
No,
like,
it's
just
annoying. Yeah.
be happy with like what you're getting, and the fact that like these guys are doing this week in and week out, and they're like filming hours and hours of content. And also, like,
Yep.
a lot of the stuff, I'm there for like the fun and the laughs. I don't need. Do I like analytical, like really serious, in-depth stories? Of course, but I don't need like the Red Tower or Spire in the Woods every week, or Mother Horse Eyes every week.
Right.
Sometimes I can use like a My Little Pony,
Yeah.
or something like really cringe and like easy to read. Smile Dog, Tiki Toby,
Yeah.
things like that. Sometimes I just would rather have that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And the thing is like, if you want that, there are plenty of YouTube channels, podcasts, or whatever, where they are just they're like book clubs, and they read a story or a book, and then they discuss it, and blah blah blah. It's like you can totally do that if if that's more of what you're into. But I agree. I'm into the cringy, the jokes, and like we said, the what would I do differently as an artist or writer. And that was one of the main things that got me into just wanting to write and wanting to do, wanting to contribute to the creepypasta, whatever, creepcast subreddit. It was just like them talking about, well, what what would I have changed about this story? Or if I was writing this story, what would I have done? And that, to me, like, as a creative person, that to me is where it really got my gears grinding, where I was like, oh yeah, that is so much better. Or what if this happened too? That would be awesome. You know what I mean? And so I completely agree that I think they should do more of that. Like, in the end, like, they shouldn't just finish even if they're like, we hated this story, this was just dog shit, it was boring. I do like when they like are like, but here's how you could have made it better, or here's how you, and they do it to some extent, but I feel like a lot of it recently has been like just quick little asides about things that they would change. And for a lot of their people who are listening and fans, it's like, we a lot of us are aspiring or just want to know how to be better storytellers. And so to hear it from those guys, like, to hear their thoughts, it is really helpful. It is really I think of why so many of their fans are turning and actually sitting down and taking the time to write too, which is like the other big part of this that I want to talk about, is just that, like, I've been part of podcast communities before a lot where they're super creative, fans or whatever, like, making, like, doing like a song contest and like making a song or whatever it may be. But it seems like Creepcast in particular is one of the most, like, creative communities, just in terms of a lot of people are actually writing their own stories. It's not just people listening and getting scared or whatever, but people are getting inspired to write, which I think is what makes it so special too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have wonderful. I mean, every week, wonderful art, wonderful like memes, stories are being posted all the time. It's filled all the time. I do want to harp back on a point that you brought up earlier, where the whole idea of like there are other podcasts that are. I mean, there's other YouTubers and creators that are do story time, just like we'll read the stories, which is like that was a huge issue early days of the podcast, where people were like, "Why are they talking so much? Just read the story." It's like, what if you want that? Just go watch somebody else read it, like word for word. Like I'm there for them at the end of the day, and I think that because of who they are as people, that invites the creativity of the fan base. Like I've wonderful art. I met some wonderful people. There's people that are. I mean, Georgie, the guy that does their backgrounds. I've talked to him before. I'm in his like live streams every once in a while. A wonderful, like talented artists and writers and like 3D effects people. People who are editing. I mean, Koloku, the animator that's doing animations every week. You have Darbo, who's editing these episodes like at a rapid pace. I don't know how he's doing it, but you have all these wonderful, talented people that are brought together by this community. And I've been, as you said as well, I've been a part of other communities as well. Like, for example, like obviously TMG for a long time, I was part of that community, and then stuff happened. So, I was a big fan of. Oh my god, what's the? Oh my god. It's like a newer one, Escape Pod podcast. They're like on YouTube, TikTok, and they do superheroes and stuff. But this is the one community where I'm like, seriously, like they like respond to what the audience wants at the end of the day too. Maybe not right away, but they do like adjust things or want certain things, and will respond to the audience. Now, does that mean they're gonna like take every single recommendation made by the audience? No, but they are reading a lot of audience recommendations. They're reading fan stories now. This is like one of the few podcasts where they're like super responsive to their fans. Which is wonderful. And that's why I love the community so much. I love the creative people in it, and I'm a super big fan of anybody that does anything in this community that's like positive and wants to bring light to. I mean, creepypastas are such a classic thing. I mean, I wasn't big on them back in like Marble Hornets, Slenderman back in the day, but because I'm just not, I wasn't on the internet at that time, but from what I hear, it's a crazy time, and I'm glad that Creepcast is bringing that time back to the modern era.
Yeah, and kind of like, in a way, kind of explaining it for like a layman person who maybe doesn't understand really what creepypastas have been, what they are today. A person, it's the podcast is kind of a reference, like a starting point for you to be able to understand. Because I wasn't ever, this kind of goes into my next question, but I'll just say this first, that I was never a fan of creepypastas. I was a fan of, horror stories. I read some just horror stories in college and whatever throughout my life. And so it's like I was ripe to maybe become a fan, but it just never found me the way that it did a lot of people during that time. And so, yeah, I guess for me, it was the podcast that made me now a fan of creepypastas, or like online, whatever, unpublished horror where, it's maybe published online, but it's not a book that I bought from the store. So yeah, did you become a fan because of the podcast, or was it, were you reading creepypastas before there was ever a Creepcast?
So I think I've read some of the classics. I definitely read Jeff the Killer. I definitely read Sonic EXE. I definitely read Russian Sleep Experiment. Some of the more classic ones I have read or were a fan of. Marble Hornets I had watched all the way through before, but it wasn't like when it was coming out. It was like 2019, 2018, when like the resurgence of like, let's do YouTube documentaries on old stuff. Yeah. That's what I was watching, so I knew that from that. I probably know some of the other ones. The Reddit side of it I was just I wasn't on Reddit, so I didn't know anything about it. I'm sure I've watched a few Mr. Creepypasta videos back in the day,
Yeah.
because that was my thing. But Creepcast is the main. Because of Creepcast, I am now more interested in that stuff. As you can see by the stuff that I'm writing or into, I like going back and making those seemingly, not to be offensive, not so great stories. Try to like bring the best out of them, or I like writing in that old style of being like kind of like I'm so edgy. I like writing that style sometimes because it's fun and jokey when you're not obviously back then I was probably super serious and it was like, oh, I gotta be like perfect to the art, and that was probably their thing. Nowadays it's looked at as more like cringy or like weird in a way, which I evolved, you know.
Right. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Well, and that's the thing I was gonna say is that it takes this format, the creepypasta format, if you will, if you could call it that, it takes a lot of the pressure out of, because if I just set out and I'm like, I want to write a horror story, and I'm like, well, the idea of writing a story anyways, you're like, well, and I would hopefully want to share it with people. Well, if I got to do that, I got to publish it. So if I'm going to write a horror story, you know, or just any type of story, I'm like, it has to be good enough to get published. So already there are like so many barriers where you're thinking like, I have to be like, from a literature standpoint, I have to be at my best. I have to be, you know, I have to be eloquent. I have to be concise. I have to be, you know, a wordsmith. You know, all of these things. When you step into the creepypasta realm, it's like, no, sometimes it's better if you're, you know, too concise, or if you're, you know, cringy, like that said, if you'll just be more conversational and stuff like that. Like you're just writing a post online rather than trying to tell a story as a narrator or whatever, you know. And so I think, you know, I see that is for me what has like kind of the creepypasta format has kind of unlocked, you know, my creativity as a writer, to just be like, it doesn't have to be the best. It doesn't even have to be good. You just have to like be interested in what you're writing. You know, you have to care about it, and you have to, you know, hopefully intrigue some people with what you're writing about. You know, you don't want to be boring, in other words, but
Agree.
Yeah, and I think that is just what's cool about, you know, whatever the creepypasta community back, you know, in the day when it was first kicking off or whatever on No Sleep. And still, what I think is kind of magical about it today is that you don't have to be a professional writer. In fact, a lot of times the stories, or the ones that people really get attached to, aren't the best written ones, you know. And that that I think is very cool. So, well, yeah. Let's see, what other questions do I got here for you? So, so just kind of, in the realm of horror, you know, just talking about like, what is your favorite, you know, horror type thing? You know, whether it's a movie, book, you know, or have you always been a horror fan though?
Yeah, I think since a very young age, I've been a horror fan. One of my first ever movie I ever watched was Wizard of Oz, and the movie that I watched after that was one of the Friday the 13th.
Okay.
I was not supposed to be watching it,
right?
But it was one of those. I've just been a horror fan since a kid. For horror related stuff, what the hell? I'm mostly into a lot of like slasher films or older movies, but I do love a good body horror movie. The Thing, like any of those types of movies. The Blob, The Fly, any of those types of movies are awesome and great. Do I like a lot of the modern stuff? Like what's the newest one? Like Smile, Trap, a lot of like the A24 Blumhouse stuff. It's like I still like it. Talk to Me was great. I loved that. Yeah. I haven't watched Bring Her Back yet, but I think I'm heavy on like 80s, 90s slasher films, because those are like popcorn junk food films that I just love, and they have like fun characters and they do crazy stuff. But to this day, I think my favorite horror movie would still be like Friday the 13th Part like 3 maybe. It's just I like those kinds of movies. I've watched for modern stuff, it'd probably be something like Hereditary or maybe even Smile 2, something like that. That's for modern stuff. But I've always been a big horror guy. I've loved horror. I'm into other stuff, obviously like Star Wars and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm into a lot of nerdy stuff, and I think horror is an extension of that. Horror can also be very nerdy and very niche.
Well, and then something I've wanted to bring up with someone else who's a fan of the podcast and just a fan of horror is, for me, one of the things that draws me to it so much now is like horror. One of the few genres where movies, books, everything is still being made. Like, it's still very popular, but also the scope of what can happen is like anything, it can there can be a dragon, there could be a whatever. So like as a kid, when maybe I would have liked more of like medieval style stuff, it's like, well, today, there was a Gladiator movie that came out, but it's like those aren't as popular anymore, where there's like, people fighting and there's magic and all that stuff. But within the horror genre, it's like all that stuff is still pretty, prevalent. There's that Viking movie that the weapons guy made. There's like, and so that to me is like, I always liked in stories when supernatural, out of this world shit happens, Yes, I like a good fiction story that's just based in real life too. Like, interesting things can still happen in a world without magic and monsters, but I always like magic and monster stories just a little bit more, you know what I mean?
Agree. I think that horror is one of the only genres, I feel, I mean, obviously modern day, that is still being made and making a lot of money. And I feel like you could do so much with it. Like a horror movie can also be all other genres. You can make a horror comedy. You can make a horror action film. You can make a horror thriller. You can make a horror romance. Like, horror can be applied to almost any other genre. You can make horror sci-fi, anything. Yeah. That's why I feel like it is still so popular, because fear and love are probably the two biggest emotions ever. It's what sells.
Right.
So it's super prevalent in our society. You can make horror movies about almost anything, or horror books. I mean, obviously for books and stuff, big Stephen King guy. I've read a bit of Lovecraft. But I haven't really delved deep into a lot of horror books, but I do love Stephen King. I've read most of his works. I think he's a questionable person, but I love a lot of his works. A lot of his movies are pretty good too. I love the original It. I'm watching the It TV show, the new one. I'm watching that. Nice. I love The Shining. I love all that stuff. Horror is such an applicable to so many like ages and groups and whatever. You can do horror for anybody.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, and before the podcast, I was just watching The Mist with my fiance, because I'd never seen it before. I'd heard of it. I kind of knew how it ended, but I was like, I'm just going to actually throw it on, because I've been on kind of a Stephen King kick lately, because I have a Dark Tower book. I'm thinking about starting that series. I know it's a big, huge, epic series,
wonderful. But I've read it myself.
Yeah, nice, hell yeah. Well, we'll have to chat about that sometime. But anyways, my point is that I'm interested in Stephen King and like horror movies and stuff now as an adult way more. When I was a kid, I found, I think because mainly the only horror movies I was watching were like just shitty bad ones, but I found horror to be too predictable. If the point is always to just be scared, then I know what's going to happen. People are going to die. People are going to jump out from around corners. Ultimately, the point is to just scare you. And so I was like, these movies bore me. I'd rather watch a comedy, or I'd rather watch, some epic drama or some Lord of the Rings-esque stuff, or even a Star Wars, you know what I mean? I was way more interested in that. And it wasn't until like as an adult when I was kind of like, Harry Potter's been over for years now. It's like, when is the next fantasy kind of like cool whatever thing gonna come out? And there was Game of Thrones, so you could argue that there are still coming out, but I just found like kind of a hole in my life, in the type of content I wanted to consume, and then and going back and finding the good horror movies or the good horror stories, books, whatever, has kind of filled that hole of stuff I want to check out. Now, to that being said, I didn't just hate horror outright. I was a big Edgar Allan Poe fan. He's still like one of my favorite writers to this day. I just remember like listening to and reading The Telltale Heart like in English class, and just listening to this crazy guy talking about how he wants to murder this guy who lives like below him or above him. I forget what it is exactly, and just hearing like this insane person talking about how he has to murder this guy because he doesn't like his creepy blind eye that he has and all this stuff. And I just remember being like, well, this is awesome. I like this, but but a horror movie, like whatever about a serial killer isn't going to be like it isn't going to be narrated from his point of view for the most part. It's going to be some people get killed, there's some twists and turns, and they find out that the killer is actually someone's brother, or whatever. And so to me, it was like the movie, the tropiness of the movie aspect of horror really kind of turned me away from the genre for a lot of years. And it's only that now I get to kind of get back in it and watch the good stuff and fall in love with like, all that stuff. So yeah, it's just, I bring that up because I want people to know kind of where I come from, but I also want you to know that like, just because you're not a horror fan right now in 2025 doesn't mean that, you might not find a branch of horror that you love, or there might not be something for you, because horror is one of those genres where there's something for everyone, as you said. Any type of story can be told. So
I agree completely. It's such a genre that's so adaptive, and you could talk about anything. You could talk about mental health struggles, trauma. You could also talk about whatever the heck you want. You could talk about societal issues. You could just make something that's like turn your brain off. A guy's killing some campers. Like that's it. Yeah. You can make so much.
Yeah, you could make the whatever it is, the reality TV equivalent of like a horror movie. Exactly.
Exactly. I think the reality TV equivalent of a horror movie would be. Have you seen the what's it called? The Unmasking of like Leslie Vernon or something like that.
I have.
It's not, like a documentary about set in a world where like Freddy, Jason, and all of them are real.
Okay.
And this documentary person is with a up and coming murderer, like he's going to kill people, named Leslie Vernon. It's pretty fun. It's stupid and like kind of dumb, but I would suggest watching it.
Hell yeah,
it's pretty.
I'll check it out. Unmasking of Leslie Vernon.
Yeah. I think it's the Unmasking of Leslie Vernon. Let me look it up.
Yeah, hell yeah. I will watch it. That sounds really interesting. Yeah, so here maybe you could take this question as a writer, or maybe you could just take this question just in general, but like, what are your inspirations? Do you said you're a big Stephen King fan, so, and then into, like you said, a lot of nerdy stuff, which, that's awesome. I mean, nerdy stuff, is mainstream these days. So I just view it as you like good things, you don't like boring things, is kind of how I interpret that. But yeah, do you have any other inspirations that you want to kind of shout out, something that maybe you feel like other people don't know about that you want to tell us about?
One thing you guys, I don't know if you ever heard of a little thing called Percy Jackson. Just kidding. But that was Percy Jackson was a huge thing for me as a kid. Percy Jackson and Diary of the Wimpy Kid. I liked those stories so much that I thought my life was so interesting that I could make my own journal. So a lot of my non-horror stuff is inspired by that kind of stuff. Superheroes.
Yeah.
And another series like Michael Vey, I think. That's like or Simon Vick, something like that. But it's about like these kids with electricity powers. all my non-horror stuff is inspired by that. Like, that's the stuff I like to write. I also do write some like murder mystery stuff. That's more of like a James Patterson, David Baldacci, that kind of stuff. That's what my inspiration for those. For horror, genuinely, I don't know. Like, I couldn't say what my inspiration for horror is, because a lot of my ideas are, I hear about something and I'm like, oh, that'd be fun to write a horror story about, and that's it. Like, it's not like something that I'm like a specific way I write or anything like that. It's way different when it comes to horror. Like, it's usually just I come up with an idea and like try to horrify or things like that. And then obviously for like rewrites of like Toby and Jeff the Killer, and then obviously even the most recent one, the John St. John story. It's just a lot of like, I like this character, let me do something fun with them in my kind of way.
Right.
Which I have a lot of, I know that I write a specific way, like the same kind of twistish, or use the same kind of verbiage in a lot of my stories. I do a lot of the little comedy moments, things like that. But I just don't really think I have like a specific inspiration. There's no one that specifically inspires me. Obviously, Creepcast inspires me a lot. Other people's stuff also inspires me. Like, one idea for a story I've been working around, like thinking about for a long time is, Left Right Game?
Yeah.
You know the town in Left Right Game? I forget what it's called, but Jubilation. I've had the hankering to write a story set in that universe with like a party that goes through and then gets stuck in Jubilation, and just like the idea of like this like group of people trying to figure out like what's these Jubilation, like not zombies, but like these monster people's like weaknesses and how they're gonna survive, and like this like how they're surviving in this like city. That's like one idea I had, but a lot of my inspirations for horror stuff comes from other people's stuff. It's just like, oh, how can I do that in my own way, or how can I make a spin-off? How can I continue this story? Because I'm the kind of person that like, oh, I don't want the story to end, so I'll try to do something fun or new and exciting with it.
Yeah, that's kind of, maybe what I suspected. But also like I completely agree that I get a lot of like my ideas, or when I feel the urge to write, it's not just because I imagined like a monster off the just from the ether in my head. It's because I listened to a story about like Left Right Game, and they pass through Jubilation, and I'm like, what are the rules of that town? Like, what's it like for a little boy growing up in Jubilation, or does he grow up? Does he even age? Are they just stuck in time? Like, what are the and so that is and I think most people probably are that way to some extent. I agree that like it's really cool and awesome for people to create a whole world just from scratch, where they do it like in fantasies or other genres. That's awesome too, but I also like just a short story where it's like, how can I take this idea that somebody else had, or this character from this story, and just expand on them in my own way. That's really fun. So hell yeah, that's awesome. I love to hear it, because I love to hear that like it's always good when you can hear that other people are coming up with ideas in similar ways that you are, that you're not just alone in wanting to know what happened in Jubilation,
Exactly.
Yeah, hell yeah. Okay. And then so, I don't know if much will come of this question, but I'm still gonna ask it. If you could make a movie, story, book, in any genre that you want it to, doesn't have to be horror, just like, let's say you have the talent, you have the the money, whatever things you need, what genre would you make it in, and what would it be about? Like, just briefly, you don't have to have a whole plot, but
if I was stuck, obviously you said I wasn't, but if I was stuck in horror, I would probably just do like a slasher movie, because those are fun. Right. And I've actually been in a short film that was like a slasher-esque movie with somewhere on the internet. I think I just like those kind of movies. This like being on set for those kind of movies is really fun. If it's not, if it's anything, I would definitely just do like a superhero or fantasy movie because those are
Nice.
the coolest stuff to do, and you have like all this like playground to play in, or like being able to adapt a character I like from a comic book. That'd be awesome. Those are kind of the things that I would probably do. My number one thing would be, I want to write a Wolverine movie or like that because it's my favorite characters. That's what I want to do. Nice. If I had everything in the world to do it.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's I think maybe a lot of people just with no budget, no strings to rein them in. They're like, I would make maybe not like remake a Lord of the Rings, but they'd remake like something like that because they're like, I loved that type of a movie or whatever it may be. Yeah, and for me, because I'll just kind of answer real quick. Or did you have something else you wanted to add?
No, please go ahead. Okay. I'd love to hear.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I'm definitely kind of in the same vein as you. I'm in terms of like fantasy, something maybe like that. I loved, like Troy, that movie, or like A Knight's Tale growing up. So, something with or even like what's it called, the Odyssey, where like Greek tales, so maybe something with that. But then I've also had the idea recently that I think it would be cool because I've been listening to a lot of like lit RPGs at work, and lit RPGs are really fun because it's the idea that like a person from our world is transferred into like a fantasy world, but they essentially have like an operating system and stuff usually in this world. Sometimes it's in the real world, and the real world just changes, but where they have like the operating system of like a video game, and stuff. And so they have levels and they have like, they're trying to level up, they're trying to get good loot and like do all the stuff. And part of me is like, I kind of think it'd be cool to do like my own version of that, where maybe it's like a post-apocalyptic, like thousands and thousands of years in the future, where I could make there be like mutated monsters and for some reason magic exists. So I would still have it be in our own world, like it's the United States or it's America, but it's called something different. So it's like the map that I would have would be a map of like the United States of the world, but everything would be called something different, and there would be relics of the past all around. But it'd be something cool like that, where like, some hero arises and he's gotta, whatever, save the fucking world or stop the demon or whatever it might be. But it would allow me to have like all these horror post-apocalyptic cool concepts and kind of a medieval thing at the same time, So yeah, anyways. That I think I think it's important to like ask yourself that, because as much as like we want to write horror and we want to keep writing short stories and stuff like that, I do think it's important to be like, what is the story you would want to write if without anything, with nothing holding you back, kind of a thing.
Agree. No, I agree completely. I think it's fun to branch out sometimes and think about what else you would write instead of just just horror, because a lot of us obviously in this community, etc., horror people.
Yeah.
But it's fun to think about what else you would want to write or what else you could do. I mean, with a limited budget and a limited time, I mean, there's so many things I'd love to do and be able to do and they're not just horror. But obviously, primarily, I post horror online because it's just fun. It's fun to do, and to be honest, it's just, I don't know, I like getting it out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's simple in some ways too, to where it's like, it's not so daunting as like me. If I'm gonna write this epic fantasy novel, it's like, fuck, exactly. Well, I don't know where to begin, but I could begin this short story about, whatever,
Exactly.
my cat's becoming sentient or whatever whatever the
Exactly.
story might be. Okay, so here's last question, and this should just be kind of a quick one. And
Mhm.
you can do rapid speed, or you can take your time and answer, thoughtfully or whatever. But like favorite Creepcast story, favorite Creepcast episode, and then favorite Creepcast bit.
Okay, favorite Creepcast story would be Pen Pal. I think it's hands down. It's one of the best stories I've ever read. Obviously, other stories have challenged it. Spire was another great story.
Yeah,
Left Right Game's a great story. Mother Horse Eyes. As much as I want to say Mother Horse, I love the episode of Mother Horse Eyes, but it is not a normal story like something like or straightforward as Pen Pal, which is
yeah,
why I think Pen Pal wins it for me.
yeah,
And then I would say also Baraska would be another great story
yeah,
if Part 5 didn't exist, but unfortunately
yeah,
it does. Um, but I think number one favorite story would be Pen Pal. Now,
yeah.
favorite episode? That's so challenging because every
That's the
my
harder
number one
question. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. My number one thing when anyone ever asks me that is that, oh, I love every episode, or I have my every episode is my favorite. I have a least favorite episode for sure. I have a lockdown least favorite episode, which is Psychosis, because as much as
okay,
Diego bit is
yeah,
fun, I just don't like the story. I think it's really like it's just quirky guy does quirky things for
yeah,
like an hour,
yeah.
and it's just not my. I
It's
don't
a
know.
bit
It just
boring for sure.
happens.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? I don't know. Favorite episode. Oh Lord. I think you'd have to go with something like. You have to go with something like super funny. That
yeah,
I wouldn't lock in like I dared because it's like the story's also bad.
yeah.
A lot of like the grab bag episodes are my favorite. The dog
Yep,
one is
yep,
really good. I love anything by Travis, the guy that wrote like It Bleeds, It Breathes, Fleshgate, things like that. Those
yeah,
stories are wonderful. I think The Whistlers was also a recent one that was really good.
yeah.
I don't think I could pinpoint down one episode that's like my favorite. I love a
For
lot of them for
sure.
a lot of very different reasons.
Yeah.
If I'm going for recent ones, let's see what their most recent stuff. For best bit, I will still say to this day the funniest bit, other than Grandpa, like a classic one like Grandpa Ernest, things like that.
Yeah.
Um, the funniest bit has to be the smoking section. I think it's in Diania House where
Uh.
the guy comes in and shoots the smokers.
Yeah. Yep.
It's like boom, boom. I don't know why. It's just so
Yeah.
fun. I think it's the funniest thing ever. So out of the recent episodes, Odyssey, the live show, wanted to say wonderful, was great. That's a great episode.
Yeah.
I think the journal was a great one. 733 was okay. Accounts was okay. Something wrong with Wendigoon, crazy episode.
Yeah.
Listen, I mean, the My Little Pony one was great. Church in the Woods was cringe, whatever. But other than that, I mean, most of the recent stuff I really like. Actually, if I was gonna lock down, actually, I can lock it down. If I was gonna lock down my favorite episode, it'd be Tales from the Gas Station because it has
Okay.
everything. Good
Yeah.
story, hilarious episode. It's a great length, and although the ending's a little whatever, but it also does have a kind of like a mini crash out at the ending. So it has everything I'd want from a great episode.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I think that's totally fair. Yeah,
Uh,
I agree with you on a lot of like why how it's hard to pin down because you love different episodes for different reasons, and some of them the bits
uh,
just stand out, but the story's not that great, sort of a thing.
what about you? I'd love to hear yours.
Okay. So, for Creepcast story, and the way I break this up is the way a lot of people do, like, or what a lot of people have agreed is like the right way. It's like your favorite story is just the story standing alone by itself, completely regardless of what they did on the episode. And for me, I agree that Pen Pal is like up there and probably depending on my mood and stuff could take number one. But just to be different from you to make it a little more
Uh,
interesting, I
Fair.
will say Mother Horse Eyes. Mother Horse Eyes is I think
It's
the
good.
story. I think the story is amazing. I think the different perspectives it
Uh huh.
just puts it like a cut above the way it was formatted with it just being posted
Uh huh.
all around Reddit and being like this scavenger hunt makes it just have this lore that's so cool and this mystery behind it, especially with not knowing like who the author even is. I think that just you almost wonder is like, is this guy an oracle of what could happen in the future? Like we don't know because we don't know,
Of course.
who he is. So, what?
I was saying, of course, I was agreeing with you.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, yeah. It's just sometimes it's cutting out a little bit, so I don't
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know if it's just cutting you off and you're saying more. But anyways, so yeah, that's like my and also like pen pal like take out all the horror or all the like crazy historical non-history references and stuff. I think it's such a creative like amazing like allegory or just story about like addiction if you want to take it that way. Like I think it has so much to offer like somebody who's going through like an addiction maybe um and just stuff like that. So there's just so many reasons as to why I love it and as to why I think like it's one of these just amazing stories that covers so much and takes you so many places while still at the same time having a very simple core of like a dude facing his like childhood trauma that he like cannot get over because when he was a kid this crazy thing happened to him where he spent a month with a woman who wasn't his mother or whatever however you want to interpret that and he saw these different timelines branching off at once you know and I just think that it's totally unique and it deserves like a unique spot as a story in terms of the best of all time. I understand why for some people it's not going to be their favorite story, but I do think it belongs in everyone's list of great, Creepcast stories or by that meaning great stories that Creepcast has covered, Um, and it's got some good bits and stuff peppered in there too. Like it's got some funny stuff with the demon penises and everything that just made it great too. So yeah, so favorite Creepcast episode. I'm gonna lock it into early just to do it, and then I'm just gonna like kind of defend it. So I think it is it's the one that has is it Eyeless Jack? I always get him confused, but it is the one where
Oh,
essentially he's like, the story starts off and he's like, I moved in with my brother Edwin. My house got
yeah, yeah, yeah.
foreclosed on, And every time just Isaiah reads that, like, I moved in with when he says the word Edwin, every time it makes me laugh out loud. I don't know why. I think it's because to me, Edwin is like a funny name. And then on top of it, like, it's just so kind of ridiculous and so clearly like a kid just trying to figure out how to tell a story. Um,
Mhm.
and it's so endearing and I love like I love the he ate his fucking kidney like and all that stuff and I forget what other stories are in that episode. I think it's maybe like Pancake Family and stuff like that too, but it is one of my favorite episodes are usually one of those episodes that has multiple different stories. Another close second I think is the one with the bit about the Transformers.
Mhm.
Yeah, the transformer explodes and they're like, yeah, Optimus Prime's in the field, Travis, and all that stuff and they're making the jokes about about that.
Mhm.
And it really does to me what makes my favorite episodes. It does come back to like the bits, the comedy of it because it, even if a story is the greatest story ever written, the bits and where that goes are what make it my favorite podcast episode. It's always going to be how they make fun of something or how they turn something into hyperbolize it and make it ridiculous. That is going to be what makes me it just makes me come back and listen again to that specific episode. And there are a lot that I do that. So I don't say that lightly that like that
Mhm.
creepy grab bag number 2 I think is my favorite episode. But it's one of the ones that I think gets overlooked a lot because it's just short stories and people, they're whatever. Some people like the stories or some people don't, but I think they forget sometimes how funny these readings can get when they're ridiculous like that. Yeah, and then the favorite, so the answer about favorite Creepcast bits is kind of the same, right? It's those are my favorite episodes because they're my favorite bits. So yeah, you can refer to my last answer, but I do also just want to say that, like, I think the eat 'em like a bug, or eat me like a bug. Obviously, that was very funny. And that was in the Diania House episode too. And I agree that the shotgun, he's like, it says no smoking or whatever, like, that is such a funny bit. And in my opinion, when they start to laugh at that is where they start to, like, kind of go off the rails into laughing hysterically about the guy drinking barefoot bottles of wine, Yeah, it's a great episode. Diania House is a great episode, and is also a great story too. So it's one of those ones where it's like it's a double whammy, And those are always the most fun when the story's good and when the bits are good too. Obviously that's what makes the best episodes. But yeah, so. Well, anyways, I think we covered a lot there, man. That's pretty good. Thank you for.
I'm glad you talked about it.
Yeah, thank you for opening, yourself up and kind of your philosophies on horror up. I think it's
Thank you for asking me questions. I love answering.
Yeah. Well, here's what I plan to do. So, I do want to start getting into. My story, but I hope to just maybe do some more like podcast style streams in the future where me and you can just kind of shoot the shit about whatever's going on, or some favorite some favorite media we've been watching, and we can just kind of talk about maybe like a thing where we just recommend stuff. I think could be super fun, because I already got some good recommendations out of you. Just first of all, I want to find the slasher film you're in. If it's somewhere on the internet, I think that would be awesome to check out. And then okay, hell yeah. Well, like I said, I understand if you're like, I don't want to, I don't want to be, yeah.
It's from high school. I'm not embarrassed of it. I think I did a pretty good job. I think my acting was, but it's from high school. It's nothing that I'm ashamed of.
Yeah, hell yeah. Well, that's good, and that's that's awesome to have older stuff, to look back on, and then the unmasking of Leslie Vernon. I'm definitely gonna check out.
I looked it up. It's actually called Behind the Mask: The Tale of Leslie Vernon.
Okay, behind, gotcha. Cool.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. No, I'll get that. Hell yeah. Well, yeah. If you want to, like I said, I'm down to start reading. Unless there's anything else you want to kind of say, or maybe a question you want to ask me, I'll give you some time here to do that.
Actually, I would actually love to ask a few questions. So yeah. I would like to say, like, obviously, as I gave you your flowers before, I would love to know what exactly made you push that button and start recording. What made you push that button and decide, I want to start going live and start? Was there like a specific moment? Was it a specific episode of Creepcast? What was it?
Well, what made me want to start recording in terms of what my stream is now and reading horror stories, or just what made me want to be a creator or whatever in general? Because I have done stuff before this. Okay, both? All right. So yeah, I'll just kind of tell the story of how I got into it. So essentially my first ever podcast that I did was with my brother, and it was, you could call it a COVID podcast if you want, but we actually started right before COVID. So we maybe had 4 episodes out before COVID. And essentially what it was is I was a huge fan of podcasts. I was a huge, comedy podcast, primarily Bad Friends, like the H3 podcast, like I mentioned. Stuff like that. I was, getting into more following online creators and stuff like that. But I was also just watching a lot of podcasts. And I think what actually made me want to step into being like, okay, I want to do a podcast, which is how I eventually started recording, was actually me watching. It was called, I think it was called Weed and Whiskey. It was a podcast that in that show Ridiculousness or whatever,
Yeah.
Rob Dyrdek, that show, he had a person who was called like Stilo Brim or whatever, who would like run the recorder on that stuff. And I was a big Rob Dyrdek fan of, like, Rob and Big was a good show, obviously, and stuff like that. But I've never been a huge Rob Dyrdek fan. And for some reason, I can't even tell you why, but I was like, oh, this podcast is just starting out. I'll watch it, because it was Stilo Brim, and it was like some other white guy who was maybe his friend. I don't quite know what his credentials were, why he, apparently maybe he lives in LA, so he has all the credentials you need to have a podcast. And I started watching it, and I remember like Rob Dyrdek was on an episode, and I started watching it, but at a certain point, I just remember like listening to it and just being like, this is not good, like, or this is not what I want out of a podcast. And I don't mean to be like a hater or to talk shit on something, because I do like some stuff that Rob Dyrdek has done, but and I don't think he was that involved with the podcast. But I just remember being like, the one guy who's talking on this podcast is just not, like, he's not a good storyteller, he's not interesting, like, he's very, the way he kind of articulates himself, I was just not a fan, in other words. But it made me think, I'm like, it kind of gave me a little bit of confidence, where I was like, I think I could, when I just talk with my brother or with people in general, I tend to have more interesting conversations, and we tend to laugh a lot more than these people are doing, and stuff like that. And so I was like, I think it'd be fun to try. I've always loved just having conversations with people. Like, some of my favorite memories, childhood memories, were just like hanging out with friends and just talking for hours on end, until it's, before you know it, it's like 4 a.m. and you've been talking all night, and I don't think everyone does that. And I also don't think everyone enjoys it as much as necessarily I do, just having like really long conversations like that. And so it made me just kind of think, like, you know what, I'm gonna try to do that. I can do it with my brother, because we lived together at the time. And and we started, and it was like an entertainment comedy podcast base. We were just trying to talk basically pop culture and like movies and stuff that we had seen and stuff that had come out. And we were just kind of riffing off of it, and just trying to kind of make up bits and be funny in our own way, although neither of us, are like comedians or anything. But, we made each other laugh, and that's all you really need on a podcast. And so that is what kind of made me just press record in the beginning, right? So now fast forward, several years, me and my brother, aren't really doing the podcast anymore. Everything else, but I've been accumulating like some equipment, and I still have the desire to do it. I still have a lot of stuff. I'm a passionate person. Like, I consider myself almost like kind of a professional fan, meaning if I like something, I really like it, I get into it, I listen to it, or I watch it a lot, all the time, whatever. And I was still during this whole time fans of podcasts and streamers and just stuff. And so I eventually got to a point where I was like, I can't do this with my brother anymore. It wasn't working out. What can I do? Well, I guess a lot of people live stream, and a lot of people have solo podcasts. I don't necessarily want to have a solo podcast, but I guess I could try just watching stuff, or streaming online and watching stuff that I'm interested in and commentating on it, because whatever, that's, that is where, that is what I'm interested in just in general is whatever I'm watching or whatever I'm doing, and then maybe I'll have some interesting commentary people can kind of watch along and have fun along with me. I didn't have a lot of friends at this time. I still don't really, to be honest, but and so I just felt like it was a creative outlet for me, and so I started streaming on Twitch a bit, and it was okay. Like, I think I still, have like maybe close to 50 subscribers or members or whatever they're called on my Twitch channel. But I wasn't doing any one thing specifically, and I was just, whenever I had free time, I was just like, fuck it. And I'll watch like short films on YouTube. I'll watch comedy specials on YouTube, and I'll just kind of give my thoughts on it, And so that's what I did for a long time. And then slowly I was like, well, I think if I can live stream on YouTube, I think I'll be able to reach people easily, more easily. Like the VODs will stay up and stuff like that. And so eventually then I just was like, fuck it. I'm going to move to YouTube because I'm streaming enough anyways that it just makes sense to do it on YouTube where people can find me much, much easier. So, yeah, that's kind of the story. The story of how I got here.
Well, I'm glad I'm able to hop on, and hopefully in the future, we can do podcast stuff. We can do, just shoot the shit, whatever. Just talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah.
I'm glad. I've always been a creator. I've had a YouTube channel before this one, and I did stuff. I've always tried to do stuff in this genre, or maybe not this genre, but in the YouTube or TikTok or other world. Right. So I'm glad I'm able to hop on here, and we can both, able to express ourselves, able to talk and just talk about whatever the heck we want.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. Well, here's the serious moment. Here's where I'm going to put you on the spot. Will you be my friend?
Oh, of course, 100%. What are you talking about? We're already.
I know. I'm just fucking with you.
I think we both were a Jeff the Killer story. I think that means like we're pretty much like best friends. That's what I think it means.
We have to be friends. Yeah, we have to be friends by the laws of friendship. Exactly. Yeah,
we both watched Creepcast and we both read Jeff the Killer story. I think we're pretty much best friends.
Hell yeah, buddy. Well, that's good to hear. No, I say that because the thing is, it's like, some people say it's sad or whatever, but it's like when you get older, and you move away from maybe your hometown or whatever, it's like, a lot of friends just fall by the wayside. What?
Yeah. I said it's hard to meet people.
It's hard to meet people and the people
and also keep up with your old friends.
Yeah, and the people that I meet in real life, like I might tell them like, oh, I'm listening to this podcast. It's really funny called Creepcast, but I can't really have a conversation with anyone about it. You know what I mean? And so that's why I think online communities are becoming more and more important, is if only to find that thing that you're both interested in or whatever, and to find that community, because community is important, and just because we're not all in the same place doesn't mean like we can't still have like a strong community and just find people that we vibe with and stuff like that. So I think that's been one of the greatest joys of just being involved in, the Creepcast Discord and the Creepcast community is like a lot of people, they may have just online friends because they play games or whatever. Well, I don't video game much. And so as a male, as a aging millennial male, it's like I need a way to just congregate with people and to just talk about shit. Yeah. And Creepcast has allowed me to do that, and the Discord and stuff. And so I'm grateful, and I just want to put that out there, that if you're a person who, is aging and whatever and feels lonely or feels like you don't have enough friends, it's like I say get involved in internet communities, dive in. Like, sure, you could get caught in a rabbit hole, or something. Like, I don't think you should get involved in a community if they're trying to take your money or get you to join a cult or something like that. But if you could get involved in a community that just is about something that you also like, I think that's great. And I say, why the fuck not? Because life is too short, so.
until the Creepcast crypto coin comes out, and we'll see.
Right. Yeah.
I'm gonna shill my if I'm gonna shill my money out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. I understand how it is. I'm like a little bit younger, but I understand how it is moving away, and you don't know anybody, and then making new friends. But being able to talk to somebody about Creepcast is super fun, and like I only know people that watch Creepcast online. That's it.
Right.
It's so fun to be part of an active community, and that's kind of like why I started like Professor Creepin as a thing, because I wanted to talk to like people like Darbo and Cloacu and all these other like super fun people, and able to like, just chat with them about stuff like this and other authors and people in the community. I mean, I'm super active on the. I love just like interacting with people because it's so much fun to be able to be into like the same community and into the same things. And meeting new people is so fun in the Discord.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. There's so many, there's so many creative, awesome people that it's just it's nothing but just a pleasure and a fun time, and that's the moral of the story, anyways. But yeah. So if you're ready, I don't know if you need to take a break or do anything, but I'm ready to start Jeff the Killer, the Ballad of Lou, whenever you are.
Just give me 2 seconds. I'm just gonna take a sip of my water.
Okay, yeah, you're good.
Okay. Let's do this. So how did you want to run? Do you want to do like Creepcast style? Like one of us reads quotes, one of us reads the junk of it. Do you want to do like paragraph off, paragraph on? What do you want? What are you thinking?
Here's what I'm thinking is that like I'll start, and then at a certain point, we'll just kind of do popcorn. So I'll probably read at least the first few paragraphs. The story's not really broken up in any sort of way. So just kind of whenever one of us gets like, our voice gets a little dry, or what we just feel like it's a good time to switch off, we'll just popcorn read it back and forth. I'll start, and we'll just kind of go from there. And if a different way of reading evolves throughout, we can change it. It doesn't have to stay that way all throughout. And then the other thing I was gonna say though is that if I'm reading, and you have anything that you want to say, again, stop me, just say pause, and we'll stop, and we can talk about it, or we can, you can ask me a question if maybe you have a question, and I'll say pause too. Obviously, I wrote the story, so it's like I maybe won't pause it as much. Although I don't know, because I do think that I'll also be harsher because it's myself. So so yeah, I might want to pause all the time and just go on a 10-minute tirade about something. I don't know. So but yeah,
I mean, cool. I'm down. One question I do have is there any context I need to know for this? Because I know you said it's a sequel. Is this a sequel to like the original story idea, like the original story?
Yeah. So
or is it just like your own Elseworld type of situation?
I'll kind of introduce. That's a good point. I will kind of introduce it, and I'll introduce like. Yeah, just so basically the way that I saw this, it was for a contest, this March Creep It On contest, and the theme was classic creepypasta, right? For this contest. And so the thinking or kind of the description behind it was like you could write a companion piece or a sequel to like an original story if you wanted to. You could take, a character and just write a totally new story for that same character that already exists from another creepypasta. But you had to have some sort of a tie to like a previously existing creepypasta. You had to have a reference or something that like tied it back to, maybe you create a monster, but maybe they're like an operator for Slender Man or whatever, And so for me, the thing that always kind of bugged me, or maybe not even bugged me, about the Jeff the Killer story was that like in its own like cringy, angsty, young, like school shooter type of way,
Uh-huh.
Jeff the Killer is like this anti-hero, right? Where he's like, everyone attacked me and I was just defending myself and blah blah blah, and kind of stuff like that. But then the only person that he like really kills or whatever that like maybe doesn't deserve it, his parents are whatever terrible, ignore him, in some senses in the story. And so I was like, for me, the only person that really got screwed over in this whole thing is Lou, and Lou was the one who didn't deserve what happened to him, in the context of the story. Obviously, nobody deserves to get murdered for whatever,
Of course.
most of the stuff. But I was like, he did my boy Lou dirty. And so my kind of thinking and then so I thought of that and I thought of the contest. And then I thought of just naming a story like Jeff the Killer, The Ballad of Lou. And I was like, to me, that's just funny because it's kind of like highbrow, like hoity-toity or whatever, where The Ballad of Lou, like it's made to sound like it's this epic, whatever, fantasy type thing, And so I was like, I just liked that title, and I was like, well, maybe I'll try to write a story. And then, I started and I wrote the first few paragraphs, and I was listening to like Creep TV while I was doing it. It was playing in the background and those videos were playing. And then just slowly, like, I was like, oh, I'm writing more. Oh, I'm not. And then before I knew it, I was like, oh yeah, I definitely have to finish this story and enter it into the contest, and I was starting to, think about more beats and stuff to the story. And the original idea that I don't want to spoil anything, so maybe I won't go into that, but I was like, the original idea I wanted to start with was just a story of Lou, and maybe Jeff the Killer will be in it, maybe he won't, but it's about Lou, and how could Lou, like, survive his circumstances, or what could have happened, So, here's kind of, that story. And in some ways, I think, Lou needs revenge, he needs a comeuppance, like, against his brother, because he was always supporting his brother, and so I feel like that's the story that I wanted to tell, So yeah, let's just get into it then. Here, so we have it up here: Jeff the Killer, The Ballad of Lou.
Yep, I'm ready to go.
Cool, hell yeah. And then the other thing I was going to say just real quick is that I'm not going to play any music in this one because I have a guest, Professor Creepin here, and so I just don't want the music to maybe interfere. But then also, I had an issue with the autoplay on YouTube on the last one where it played some copyrighted music and it just kind of fucked up the last stream. Not a lot, but I in the future, it's like I want to still have music, but I think I got to figure out maybe a better way to do it so that I can be sure it's always at like the right volume and always at the right non-copyrighted stuff. So I'll figure that out as time goes on, but I just kind of wanted to say that for people if they're like, I don't like, the story, it sounds too bare without the music. There's not going to be music this time. That's okay. Anyway, so yeah. Jeff the Killer, The Ballad of Lou. So, I awoke in the back of the ambulance. The bright lights burned down on the mess that was my body. Gauze and blood littered my chest. The paramedics tried desperately to keep my organs from shutting down. I swatted weakly at one of their arms, confused, thinking I was still under attack. As I slipped back into unconsciousness, I heard one of them say to the other, "Poor kid, probably doesn't want to live through this. His psycho brother snapped and killed his whole family." The next few months were a fog of hospitals, surgery, narcotics, painful physical therapy, and even more painful whispers. The police and social workers explained that because my brother was still at large, for my safety, they reported that I had died along with my parents and a slew of other bodies left in Jeff's wake. But no one wanted to take me in. They were either discouraged by my insurmountable medical issues or afraid that I was cursed. Either the elusive killer would come for me and they would be collateral damage, or because I had lived, I was somehow complicit in my brother's crimes. I was left coldly and permanently alone. I was just Lou, ward of the state, child welfare ID F205111339. I was confined to a juvenile hospital for at risk youth until my 18th birthday. It was the only place that wouldn't turn anyone away. They had the doctors and medical equipment to keep me alive, but to say they cared for their charges is a filthy lie. They over medicated and pacified the children there. One doctor, who had thick circular glasses and smelled like menthol, seemed to take an interest in certain patients. I don't know if he was actually a doctor, so I thought of him as the menthol man. When I was conscious enough to form rational thought, the menthol man seemed to be obsessed with finding ways to alter our behavior. He would speak into a voice recorder with clinical callousness about the experiments he would perform on us. So yeah, that's the beginning. I'll do a popcorn here to you. But yeah, do you have anything you want to say about the opening thus far?
I'm liking the menthol man. I'm liking this storyline that isn't able to be taken in. I like it.
Cool. Yeah, I guess the thing that like comes to mind about me writing this is like, so that was just the first, 3 paragraphs. But one thing I was like thinking while I write this early on like this was like, I can just obviously take this anywhere I want, but I was also like, don't spend too much time on any one thing. I was like, you can breeze over stuff because in creepypastas, they breeze over so much, or they just like, they're just like 18 years later or whatever it is. So that was one thing that I found so freeing once I began to write this, was that I was like, I'm almost, it's because I'm lazy or whatever, because I'm like too much of a perfectionist to write other stories sometimes, where I'm like, just because I don't have every beat plotted out of the story, it was so freeing for me, to feel that, and to kind of just be like, I can breeze past this part or that part, I can leave. And so at this point, I'm really starting to have fun here as a writer, and that's something that I want like other writers to know, is that like, have fun writing your story. Make it please you. If the story doesn't please you, and I'm not saying it has to all the time, there are certainly parts where you're like, you're just trying to get it done or whatever else. But I'm like, the story should be fun for you to write. I think, I don't know. That's just that's my perspective on it as a non-professional author, creepypasta writer, right? So I just do kind of want to say that at this point. I actually am gonna go run to the bathroom real quick. So here, let's take a break. Feel free to talk bad about me behind my back to the audience.
I'll try my best. I hope audience is doing well tonight. I hope you're all having fun tonight. I hope you're enjoying this. I mean, this is my first time, and I'm looking forward to doing more. Hopefully. But yeah, I'm hoping you guys enjoy this. Hope you guys are having fun. I'm liking the story so far.
Oh my god. Okay, hold on.
Or
we have a little bit of a raccoon problem. He keeps trying to break into our sun porch. It appears that the raccoon is back. So, give me a few more seconds, but I will be back. If you want, I can throw on like a video or something.
That's okay. I can talk to the chat or just talk and yap for a little bit.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, sorry. Here, I just want to make sure everything's good before I abandon my fiance to take care of a raccoon.
You're good. You know? You're good. Good luck with the raccoon. PB operator. I see you're in chat. What's up? I hope you're enjoying this. I think you're one of the people that are watching, but I hope you're enjoying this. Hopefully we can make this a regular thing and we can me and Red can just chat about whatever, you know? Nothing news really going on for me. I'm going to see can the raccoon read a few lines? I don't know if the raccoon is speaking. I don't think it's like Rocket Raccoon. That'd be pretty cool though. I was thinking Rocco from Tales from the Gas Station. That's what I was thinking of. But I'm not doing much this week. I'm going to see FNAF 2 on Thursday. Kind of excited for that. Movie's probably not going to be great because the first one I wasn't too hyped about. But hopefully, hopefully it's fun. But until then, I'm enjoying this. It's time. But we're having fun with this. I'm liking the story so far. Do I want to lay any bear traps, to be honest? Will Jeff reappear? I think you gotta have Jeff. That's my bear trap. Jeff shows up at a certain point. Lou's gonna probably go crazy, because in canon, he becomes Homicidal Lou, I think. So I'm thinking, I need to watch Weapons. Very late to the game. I liked Weapons. It was fun. I know Papa Meat liked Weapons. I liked Weapons. It was fun.
All right, I'm back. Sorry, folks.
What's up?
I apologize.
That's okay.
I heard you talking about Weapons, and yeah, Weapons kicked ass. I do have to say, I liked it too. I liked the different perspective, like nature of it. I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah, PB operator in chat was saying that they still need to go see it.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. I liked it a lot. I enjoyed it.
It's on HBO.
It's on HBO.
Yeah, it should be on Max now. Yeah, I mean it is for me. I don't know in other countries or whatever, maybe not, but. Yeah, but and then one thing I do want to say is that Creepin, you know way more about the Jeff the Killer canon than I do. I've only ever read I've read and I listened to obviously on Creepcast the original story. So I think I heard you mention like the canon too of the Lou canon, which I knew nothing about writing this. So yeah, so if it does seem a little like repetitive or does seem a little like whatever, it's like that is purely by coincidence. No,
I was just I was still in chat. I was laying bear traps. I was trying to guess what was going to happen.
Yeah, for sure. You were laying raccoon traps. I got you.
Exactly, laying raccoon traps. Hopefully the raccoon is leaving you and your fiance alone.
Yeah, it's mainly whatever. He's just a raccoon. We're not too worried about him. It's more our outdoor cats that we're worried about. And so that's why we're like, he's coming in to try to eat the cat food, which, whatever. But yeah, we're trying to just make sure he doesn't hurt any of the other outdoor kitties because they're doing their job. They're catching mice and stuff, but he's just he's just trying to eat their food. So, but yeah, he's gone for now, and hopefully he'll stay away. But we have a camera now, so we're watching for him.
Okay.
So, anyways, we'll get back to the story. But so, do you want to start here with this?
Yeah.
Or did
Yeah.
from the voice notes. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. From the voice notes and conversations I overheard when he was treating me, he explained, patient 339 has extensive damage to the kidneys and adrenal glands. Needs regular dialysis to maintain functionality. While his kidneys would never fully function, it's scientifically apparent that his adrenal glands efficiently, as evidenced by the high levels of adrenaline that build up in his bloodstream the longer the subject goes without dialysis. Okay, I'm liking it. Adrenal glands? He's going to turn into the Hulk? Maybe? Question mark? Later on, the frog lifted and I heard, test 17 notes. The patient remains resistant to pacification, and while the cocktail of medication remains somewhat effective, suggests subject struggles against the staff and shows unprecedented levels of strength and tolerance for pain. Ooh, I'm liking it. A little bit of Russian sleep experiment. That's what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of that one scene in Russian sleep experiment where he like rips out the side of the table, whatever it's called. I remember hearing his deep but somewhat nasally voice from far away, almost in a dream, explain excitedly, "Here we see patient 339. A sweet boy named Luke who was brutally attacked. With our treatment, he wouldn't last a year. We've developed a proprietary form of dialysis which, along with proper medication, allows not only his kidneys to function, but his quality of life to remain high. We see him here doing one of his puppy puzzles." I laboriously blinked my lethargic eyelids open to see a half-a-cent puzzle of a smiling golden retriever. My hand posed with a puzzle piece in it, straps on my legs, and orderly in a corner, grinning fakely, with a sinister venom behind his eyes. I shifted my weight, and the puzzle collapsed on the floor in one piece, apparently partially glued together. I heard the menthol man's voice behind me scurry on. "And here we have a group of patients." His voice faded into the fog. And then, out of the suffocating fog, came the defining whine of reality. "Do you understand, Lou?" A voice said from a chair in front of me. "What?" I managed to blurt out from a horribly dry mouth. I sat in the sterile office of the hospital. "You want a popcorn over here?"
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I'm liking it. I'm liking the, his adrenal glands are, acting up. I'm thinking...
Yeah. I figured that they made Jeff the Killer kind of like nonsensically, they made him into a superhero, you know what I mean? So I figured that if Lou is going to have any kind of a chance coming back against his brother, he's going to need some sort of an edge, and so that's just kind of what I came up with on the fly there.
That's fair. I'm going to need them to, super soldier serum it up.
Right. Well, yeah, and that's the thing. I was like, I don't know, adrenaline. I know adrenaline makes you stronger, so I was just like, with a few quick Googles, I was like, I think this could be what's wrong with him. You know what I mean?
Sounds good to me.
What?
I said it sounds good to me.
Yeah, hell yeah, okay. I sat in a sterile office hospital. A woman I had never seen before looked annoyed as she said to me, for what I perceived as the first time, "Again, you need to attend a weekly behavioral management group and return to our outpatient clinic once a month for dialysis. If you do that and take your medicine religiously, I see no reason why you can't be a productive member of society." "A productive member?" I said, trying to grasp what was happening. My brain was turning back on for the first time in years. My thoughts raced. It felt like my brain was rotating forever forward, faster and faster. Forever forward and faster, sorry. The whine of reality was overwhelming. I managed to blurt out, "I shouldn't have ever left society. I didn't do anything wrong. My family was murdered. I'm a victim, and all you guys did was drug me and strap me to a bed." Her eyes opened, clearly surprised at my level of coherence. "Well, that's not exactly true," she continued. While you were a victim who needed our care, you've also managed to assault several orderlies and staff while in our care. You even sent 4 to the hospital in a violent outrage. It says here you were trying to escape. Brutal visions flashed in my mind, a fury that was always simmering just below the surface was starting to boil. But that was 2 years ago. And you've made such progress since then, she said, the fake smile plastered on her face that was part of the uniform of this place. And if you feel yourself getting stressed or overwhelmed, even angry, just use the behavioral management techniques you've been learning and take your medicine. What's the medicine for? I asked, knowing I would get fed a line of bullshit. It helps keeps you calm and your kidneys healthy. Your condition causes heightened cortisol and stress levels. Your meds are tailored specifically to you so that you stay calm and can lead a functional life. And if I forget? I asked, remaining passive, not letting my vitriol show. She went on. You won't feel better. You will feel worse. You will get aggressive for seemingly no reason. Your heart will race. You won't be able to concentrate. And eventually, your levels will get so high that without dialysis, you will have a heart attack and die. I better remember then, I said, reflecting the same bullshit smile she had screwed to her face. Okay, she went on. Let's get your discharge paperwork filled out. She went on, but I didn't listen. I let the pacified part of me finish the bureaucracy. The deeper part of me, the part that just yesterday was a kid whose family was murdered, stayed silent, feeling every emotion all at once. I felt betrayed and wrathful with Jeff for everything that happened, but somehow I felt more furious with my parents. They treated us like props, child actors whose job it was to play our part in their carefully crafted image of a perfect family. I didn't know what they said to Jeff. I don't know what they said to Jeff, what they did to make him fully snap and kill them. He was never the same since they took off the bandages and he saw the burns on his face. He needed help, but they just pretended like everything was fine, like they always did, and because of that, he killed them. I can understand why he snapped. What I can't understand is why he tried to kill me. I was always there for Jeff, and he was always there for me. He paid the price. He paid the price when he finally fought off that dickhead Randy and put down those psychos. That was self-defense, though, and without him standing up to them, I may have stayed in juvie. But then it didn't matter. I ended up in this hospital, which is worse. It just doesn't make sense. The last thing I remember was his crazed eyes before he plunged the knife into my chest and whispered over and over, "Go to sleep." Did he think he was sparing me of a life not worth living? Sparing me from the ridicule of being the brother of Jeff the killer? Did he think he was putting me out of my misery? Is that what he meant by go to sleep? Maybe my brother was destroyed when the flames engulfed him. Maybe underneath the burned skin is simply a monster with no familial bonds or human emotion. I guess he is a monster. Regardless, I can't forgive all the innocent lives he's taken since that night. All I know for sure is I'm getting out tomorrow, and he's out there somewhere. One way or the other, he's gonna know that those innocent people don't deserve this. I didn't deserve this. He wanted me to just go to sleep, but I'm awake now, and I'll sleep when he answers for his crimes. All right, popcorn.
Okay, I'm liking this. I'm thinking he's gonna go on like a Liam Neeson Taken style revenge tour, and he's gonna kill Jeff the Killer. That's my bear trap that or raccoon trap that I'm setting right now.
Hell yeah.
Okay. The next day, I walked into the hospital. I had a backpack with all my possessions, just to change of clothes, my medications, and this journal. $200 of gate money, they called it. Even though there were no gates around the facility, the world was completely overwhelming. Everything was in a high definition. Walked around until I found a Taco Bell. I timidly went inside and ordered. I sat down with a chicken quesadilla meal and a large Baja Blast. I love the idea of you getting out of a patient care facility and you're like, need to go get a meal. And your first idea is, let me get a Baja Blast and a quesadilla meal. I'm sorry, but I wouldn't get a quesadilla. I will say chicken quesadillas are really great. But if I'm out of a patient care facility that I've been in for quite some time, I gotta get some crazy at the Taco Bell menu. I'm gonna tell them get some like flaming hot tacos or something like that. So, Baja Blast, I can support. Exactly. You gotta pig out because like, what are you gonna do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I will say that I love the fact that the nurse was like, "Yeah, so if you don't do this, you're gonna freaking die."
Yeah.
And he was like, "I guess I better not forget." Like, I don't know. It felt like for him, it felt like a badass scene. Like, he was like, yeah, I guess I better not forget then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was definitely, I'll just say, like, definitely when it comes to the dialogue and my approach to all this was, like, I don't care if it sounds, corny or if it seems like typical movie. I wanted it to sound like typical movie, whatever. Like I wanted him to seem like he's gonna be this badass whatever man on a mission of vengeance. That was my whole, like, I was thinking very like Punisher-esque, where he's like, it's not revenge, it's punishment, type of a thing. And that was just like my guiding light. And I'll let you keep reading, but then we can talk about the Taco Bell maybe a little bit more. But
I like it. No, I like it. It's going great, and I'm liking the dialogue. Okay, nice. It was mine and Jeff's favorite. I love the idea that Jeff the Killer's sitting down at a Taco Bell. I think that's what happened. I think that they took the cheesy fries. What are they called? The things that like comes back and it's like limited time.
Yeah, nacho fries. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what really made him crack. That's what really made him have the feeling. Is they took the nacho fries off the menu, and he was, no, bring them back. And I think Randy had some nacho fries left over.
Yeah,
and he was like, Jeff. And then Randy ate the nacho fry in front of him, and Jeff snapped, and he beat the kids to death.
Yeah. Or
I talked about this in one of my own YouTube videos about that episode, but I love the idea of the kids, like, I don't know, like skateboarding over the fence, and then I like the idea if it's all of the bullies like in like pinstripe suits, and like, we're here to teach you a lesson. You're gonna be sleeping with the fishes. I like the idea of all pinstripe suits carrying Uzis and pointing guns at this group of adults and being like, and I like the idea. And just boom, and like dodges the bullets. I don't know why, but that's like the funniest scene of that.
Yeah. Okay, now when the bullies show up, it's like, I
don't know.
It's so corny, but it and the whole idea of them like going over the fence and everything. It's like, they have skateboards. So what are they, like Tony Hawk? Like fucking, no complying over the fence. Like,
and they fucking fly as if there's a ramp behind. Actually, they do an ollie, then they kick the skateboard up, grab it, and they're like, you're gonna be sleeping with the fish, Jeff. And then they point the guns at the also, I like the idea of the party was a wedding. I don't know what it's not, but it's a kid's birthday party. But I like the idea of it's like a mob hit on a wedding. But
there's a giant wedding cake, that says happy birthday.
He pops out of the top. One of the bullies pops out of the top of the wedding cake. Boom, 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 and just starts blasting. I need like a like a big budget to make like a comedy version of that. I'm telling you. Okay.
Hell yeah.
I looked around half expecting someone to tell me I couldn't have it, or that it was laced with something. Oh, whoa. I exhaled, trying to remind myself I was finally free. And this is what freedom tastes like. Freedom tastes like a chicken quesadilla. Fucking amazing. The jalapeno creamy chicken, the cheese, the sweet effervescence of Baja Blast. It tastes like a summer day. The crispy, crunchy taco. I was transported back to a simpler time, riding bikes with my brother across town, cooling off on cold refills. Baja Blast. Do they do free refills of Baja Blast though?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you eat inside, most restaurants will let you. But,
I didn't know.
Yeah.
Cooling off on cold free refills, Baja Blast, until we got kicked out. Before I knew it, I had finished everything and walked to the counter this time, proudly announcing, almost demanding, another number 7. I finished, but before I left, I tried every flavor sauce, mild to Diablo. I filled both my cups up with my favorite soda. The teenager working at the counter peered with bewilderment at me as I walked out the door. I truffed down the street and drank my soda. I couldn't believe how vivid everything was. The smell of car exhaust, the wind in the trees, a bird peeling a shred of a pancake burrito off the parking lot asphalt. I was as if the entire world was hyper-realistic. You got a clap for that one? You love hyper-realism in a story?
Yes.
That makes no sense, but that's how it was. Always such a glorious meal. I thought, and just like that, anger boiled out of nowhere. Fucking wasteful pieces of shit. What scumbag waste of oxygen would waste such mouth-watering food? I would have killed for some Taco Bell last week. I'd kill anyone who disrespects this sacred meal. That thought stopped me dead in my tracks. The anger died down, but it didn't disappear. This is what the discharge nurse warned me about. The anger will consume me if I'm not careful. The fucking menthol man pumped me with so many drugs. My emotions. What a sick fuck. He wasn't helping me. He used me to try and prove he could keep crazy people under control. He deserves to die. I thought as I fumed and kept walking. The anger would erupt in my mind and die back down like waves on the beach. Suddenly every sound was ear-splitting. The other people walking on the sidewalk were in my way, even though they were nowhere near me. Every smell was offensive. I quickly realized walking wasn't working. Across the street, I saw a sign. Public library. I bolted into the road. A car honked. I wanted to stop to yell at the driver. To fucking carjack them, GTA style. But I rushed forward. They didn't deserve it. No one deserved my anger here. I swung open the door to the library and my panic anger began to instantly diminish. I'm loving Luke. I love his irrational anger at the idea that people are wasting food at Taco. I don't know why. I love the Taco. I think it's wonderfully.
Thanks. Sorry, you're cutting out a little bit, but yeah, thanks. And my whole thought on this was like, A, what are you going to do as soon as you get out of like a hospital where you've been drugged? Was like, yeah, like somebody would probably just go somewhere that's familiar to them, or like, you know, somewhere where they have like a good memory. And so I was like, oh, I bet he used to eat Taco Bell with his brother Jeff, you know? And so, and then
I like it.
Yeah. And then also the other reason I was thinking is like, I like this, and maybe this isn't like super common, but I like when stories, whether they're, you know, just BS creepypastas or whether they're like, you know, really high level whatever art, it's like I like when they have like a scene that's like at McDonald's, you know. And I know normally like in movies and shit they don't do that because then they gotta like pay McDonald's to you know, put it in there. But I was like, I'm not restricted by that same, you know, whatever. I don't have to be like, it's, you know, Taco Del, whatever. I don't have to call it something else. I can call it what it is, and I can call all the things. And yeah, I agree that if I was, that's why I had him go back to the counter twice, because I'm like, he would just want to keep eating. And he's feeling all this for the first time, you know, so like the hunger kicks in and everything else. But then also I was like, I'm going to have him get a chicken quesadilla because it's one of my go-to orders. Do I love all the other stuff at Taco Bell? Yes, and I would get more personally, but I was like, he's just going to go with what he used to have as a kid. And to me, I was like, yeah, a chicken quesadilla or whatever for a kid is like pretty standard. And so that's why I was kind of thinking like, he'll do that. And then the other thing I wanted to say is that like, in a in the capitalistic society and stuff that we live in, there's a lot of people who would be like, oh, like a home cooked meal or whatever with my family, that's like the most like sacred food or whatever. And that stuff is great, don't get me wrong. You know, we just had Thanksgiving, it was awesome. I love all my grandma's cooking. But to me, like, something that is, just because something is mass produced and commercialized doesn't make it any less sacred if it's a meal that you had like with a family member that you used to love or whatever. Like McDonald's breakfast, that's another one to me that like I feel like even though it's you know, totally commercialized bullshit, it's also like a sacred meal to me because I remember just going to McDonald's with my dad and getting breakfast in the morning before school and it making me so happy, you know what I mean? And so I was like, how do I put that in a story? And I just loved the idea of having a scene in my creepypasta that was just all about how much I love Taco Bell, you know, or I love fast food. And so I was like, maybe it's stupid. Maybe it's too much of a curve into some other type of a story. But to me, I was like, I just wanted to do it because I was having fun. You know, I was like, how can I have a scene about somebody going to Taco Bell? Because it's such a common thing that anyone can relate to. You know, any normal person can kind of relate to. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to do it. And then I like it. Yeah, and then to have the scene as he leaves with the tortilla like smashed on the street or whatever, the burrito, I was like, well, yeah, then he could get really angry about, you know, that. And that can be where we start to see like his anger, this issue of like this high adrenaline and high anger, like becoming if not like a problem, it being part of his personality, let's say, at least right now. And so, yeah, that was just how I went with it. And, you know, I would totally understand if somebody's like, why is there so much about Taco Bell in this story? But it's my fucking story, and I wanted to write about Taco Bell, so I did it, you know?
I like it. No, I like it. It's a fun, something that there's something that I would write probably, because I just like the scene. It's a fun scene, and it fits the narrative.
Yeah, okay, cool, hell yeah. So do you want me to go from here?
No, I can keep going.
Okay.
The next few hours I spent clumsily searching the internet, whoopsie.
I think.
I staggered in, looking for a quiet corner to retreat to. A soft-spoken young woman with chestnut brown hair at the counter said, "Hello, sir. Can I help you find anything?" I stammered. Change in environment giving me whiplash. Just somewhere quiet to, I trailed off. "Well, you came to the right place," she finished for him. A genuine smile peeled from the corner of her mouth. "I'll get you set up in one of our research rooms. People rarely ever use them. You seem like somebody who requires solitude to do their best work." Yeah, I guess. I chuckled shyly, not knowing how to respond. She led me to a series of doors, past several rows of books. She unlocked a door and showed me into the room, with an empty desk and a computer. "If you need anything else, just come find me. I'm Ashley." "I'm Lou," I said, and she smiled and started to shut the door. A surge of panic rose in me. "Wait!" I gasped. She stopped peering curiously back at me. "Can you leave the door open?" I said, trying to hide my distrust for being so nice to me. The words just slipped out because it was the truth. "Of course," she said earnestly. "Anytime." The next few hours I spent clumsily searching the internet, trying to learn info about Jeff and the crimes he had committed. It was sickening and infuriating, and eventually I had to change tact. Anger was too much. So I repeated my prescription bottles inside my backpack, not wanting others to see my walking pharmacy. Some bottles had labels with unpronounceable drug names. Some only had the info of the juvenile hospital and the name Dr. Alan Sharp. So, the menthol man has a name, I thought, excitedly as I typed his name into the search engine. I learned from a few local articles that the hospital was having a high success rate with at-risk juvenile rehabilitation, and Dr. Sharp received the Compassionate Care Award at some local dinner for some rich dicks. The anger was brewing again. From my research into the drug names and narcotic classes, a picture began to form in my mind of why only bits and pieces of my life over the last 10 years are clear. I was, and still am, being given a cocktail of sedatives, antipsychotics, beta blockers, alpha blockers, and only Mr. Menthol knows what. No wonder I'm such a fucking mess. This sick, frosty smelling, dickless son of a bitch was giving me everything he could to rob me of my fight or flight response. Maybe I had excess adrenaline. Maybe my kidneys couldn't function properly. Maybe it was all bullshit excuse to use me as a lab rat. From what I read, the drugs do reduce stress and block or lower adrenaline levels. But there's no way to know what's actually wrong with me unless I persuade the menthol man to answer some of my questions. I think it's time for the doctor to get a taste of his own medicine. We can popcorn here.
Hell yeah. All right. I left the library just as the sun was beginning to set. It had been 5 hours since I was discharged from the hospital, and I couldn't believe I was heading back. I hid in the pine trees that lined the edge of the staff parking lot. I planned on confronting the doctor as he walked to his car, hoping it was somewhere amongst the rows. But as I relaxed in the trees and got my bearings on my surroundings, another idea began to form in my mind. Out here is too public. If I tried to question him here, there is security that he could hide behind. Maybe he would just have me recommitted for daring to question his medical practices. No, I needed to make sure my chat with the doctor wouldn't be disturbed. If I knew what he drove, I might be able to stash myself in his car long enough to get somewhere secluded. In the dim light of the setting sun, I began looking in the windows of the parked cars. I'll call a spade a spade. I was prowling. I was looking for something. Anything that told me it was the doctor's car. My adrenaline was spiking as I fervorously peered through the car windows looking for menthol cigarettes or a name on paperwork or clothing. I heard a door swing open. It was one of the hospital doors. I know the rumbles and clanks of that building all too well. I panicked, ducking between two cars. If this person saw me, surely they would call security, even if they didn't recognize me. I began quietly but desperately checking nearby car doors, praying one was unlocked and I could slip inside briefly. My prayers were answered. I slipped in the passenger side of a Suburban. I leaned the seat back and got as low as possible. The smells of the unknown car were unsettling, but the barrier from whoever was outside slowed my heart rate. I glanced around the car as I waited for whoever came outside to either leave or go back in. In the cup holder to my left, I saw something useful, a Swiss Army knife. I happily grabbed it, knowing that if I was discovered, at least I would have a weapon. In the back of the seat, I found a can of WD-40. As I shook the can to see if it was empty, headlights illuminated the rear view. They were leaving. Just as I was about to exit the car, headlights bounced off the rear license plate of the car directly in front of the one I was in. I grinned as I realized what the vanity plate in front of me said. It read, Dr. Sharp. In the dwindling light of my first day of freedom, I moved automatically, almost as if my body was carrying me with more decisiveness than my mind would allow. I quietly left the Suburban and crept up to the trunk of the doctor's BMW. I wasn't exactly sure how to pick a lock, but I figured now was as good a time as any to learn. Rather than try to break into the cab, I figured I could stow away easiest in the trunk. I sprayed the WD-40 into the trunk lock and unfolded one of the smaller blades. I jammed it in the keyhole of the lock, knowing I was just as likely to break it or the lock itself. After several anxious minutes of jimmying it, I was ready to give up and come back again with lock-picking tools. But I sprayed it with WD-40 again and tried one last time. I heard a glorious click and the trunk popped open. The collapsible knife fell and clattered on the asphalt. Just as I bent down to retrieve it, I heard the hospital door open again. There was a precious few seconds. I grabbed the knife and hopped into the trunk, pulling it closed as quickly as I could without making a racket. As I felt the lock click shut from the inside, I heard a familiar voice. Yes, fine. I'm going to try to do closer to the voice you did. Yes, fine. We will discuss it on Monday. I heard the doctor's muffled voice call back as his keys jingled. He was getting close to the car now, maybe 10 steps away, when I heard something that made my heart stop. He said, "What's this?" And instead of stopping at the driver's side door, he made his way around to the trunk of the car. Oh shit, I thought, my heart sank. He must have seen some part of the car disturbed by my burglary. I flexed my hands, ready to punch him and run, determined not to let the menthol man deprive me of my agency ever again. That's when I heard him yell back to whomever he was chatting with. Tell Marcus to quit fixing his fucking car in the parking lot. This is a place of medicine and business, not a goddamn Les Schwab. Then I heard a can rattle across the parking lot. Oh shit, I thought again, this time relieved. The can of WD-40. I relaxed my fists and began to exhale as I felt the engine turn over. The car began to move, and I felt resigned to my fate, knowing wherever we ended up, the doctor and I would have time to chat. And then this is one of my formatting issues that I had. This next part, it's why it's on this like scroll thing. When I posted it to Reddit, I didn't have time because I wanted to get it in before the contest deadline. So like this part obviously is kind of fucked up. It's not meant to be on this scroll thingy, but I'll just keep reading it here. I'm just letting people know because I've seen some other people have like a similar issue. So just if you're going to post something on Reddit, take the time to make sure it's formatted because otherwise it does weird shit like this. The drive was somewhat long, maybe 15 minutes. I know some people might think that all I've done with my freedom is eat some food and get myself locked in the trunk of one of the assholes who deprived me of my freedom. But when Jeff and I were younger, we wanted to do magic. Not the corny pick a card any kind, but the cool water escape kind. I remember one of the happiest moments I had with my brother was when he had me shut him in the trunk of our mom's car. I was astounded when not even 30 seconds later, he popped out saying, "Voila!" I thought he was a wizard. He then showed me that nearly all newer cars have an inside trunk release, he explained, and that if either of us ever got kidnapped, we could escape the trunk easily. It was just stupid stuff kids do. But as I rode in the darkness of the trunk into the unknown, I couldn't help but think of Jeff and thank him as I found the yellow lever I would pull when I was good and ready. When I was good and ready to show, or to show the doctor my trick. Okay. Here, yeah, I'll read one more paragraph, but
right.
The car slowed finally, and I heard the garage door open. I laid there on edge, listening to every noise, but somehow at peace with the darkness. It's what I knew. I was used to the murky black. It permeated so much of my life, and this trunk was not so dissimilar. I didn't know what would come next. I just knew I needed answers. I had gone past the point of no return, and I tried to enjoy this last moment of calm before I was forced to clash with the doctor. I listened for maybe another 30 minutes, trying to determine how secluded the doctor's house was and if he lived alone. From what I could tell, his neighborhood wasn't very busy, and I heard nothing that would indicate anyone else in the house. I took a few long measured breaths, made sure I had my new knife lockpick at the ready. I pulled the lever and popped the trunk. All right, popcorn.
Sounds good. I'm liking MacGyver-esque ability. Like he's calling back on stuff that him and Jeff used to do to I don't know, I'm liking the scene so far.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I guess the one thing I want to say about this part is so he remembers the trunk thing from his time with Jeff, okay, but part of me, like, after I wrote through a lot of this, I was like, is it weird that he knows, like, enough to, like, maybe jimmy a lock on a trunk or whatever, like, as a kid, as somebody who was, like, institutionalized his whole life and in this passive state. But then part of me was like, why am I worrying about that sort of a thing? It's just a creepypasta or whatever. But then also I was like, it doesn't matter if he has this knowledge that he shouldn't know how to, like, it doesn't matter if he has this kind of knowledge, because it could just be explained away pretty easily. And then also I was just being like, it was one of those things where in another story, I might be more hard on myself, but I was like, this is a creepypasta, so you don't have to explain why he knows, like, every little thing, even if it wasn't that much stuff, but it's just something that, like, again, I want to point out. And then also there's something about that scene when he was, like, walking to the car. That scene was like when Jeff, or when Lou was, like, walking to the car, and then when the doctor comes out, that scene was, like, very, because I wanted there to be more tension, right? And so I wanted him to think that the doctor was going to discover him. And for a few minutes, like, I couldn't think of, like, how to do that. And then I remembered that can of, like, WD-40 and it being a whole thing. And so I don't know, it's just something that as a writer, for me, it was like, it was satisfying once I was like, oh yeah, he had the can of WD-40 too. He could have left that on the ground, you know what I mean? And it could have just added a little bit more tension. So I don't know if it shows in the scene, like, yeah, I don't know, but to me that seems like fun, and to build tension, that this doctor is driving home and Lou's just in the trunk the whole time, sort of a thing. Like, to me, I was like, that seems like a good way to fucking, it's just creepy. Like, have you ever thought about just, like, driving out of, like, a parking lot or somewhere you're at, and, like, you have this trunk that goes everywhere with you, but nobody checks it, no one's, like, opening their trunk. And so it just seems creepy to me, the idea of, like, somebody hiding in your trunk,
Agree. Yeah, my trunk on my car never closed, but it pops open all the time unexpectedly.
Oh shit!
Like, yeah. where my key is in my pocket, it has a button on it to pop open the trunk, and just the way that I put my keys in, right. Unfortunately, it what's it called? It pops up every once in a while.
Yeah, so no, I've had that problem. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes people are like, your trunk's open. I'm like, I don't really, nothing in there. There's nothing fun in there.
Yeah, there's nothing in there. Nothing in there worth taking.
Okay. I'll zero back in, okay?
Okay.
I emerged slowly into a large, dark garage. I took my time closing the trunk so that if I had to make an escape, hurriedly, at least no one would know how I entered. My eyes adjusted quickly to the darkness. It was just like every other suburban American. Gas can, a workbench, gardening supplies, rolls of duct tape, and an old bicycle. I crept up to the door that entered the house when something caught my eye in the corner. A Louisville Slugger. Oh yeah. That's perfect, I whispered to myself. I checked the doorknob, turning it in microscopic increments. Unlocked, of course it is. The menthol man never feared for anything in his life. It's time I changed that. I crept into the house holding the bat at my side. A roll of duct tape placed around the handle like a carnival game. I was careful to be silent, but also not look overly hostile in case a wife or a child stumbled upon me. I was in the kitchen. Burnt orange lights spread out over the counters and down a hallway where I heard a newscast loudly emanating from a TV. I inched my way down the hallway, the orange fading, blending into the soft blue of the TV in a dark room. I peeked for a second around the corner to find the doctor. I retreated and quickly but quietly searched the rest of the house. It was unoccupied. It was a master bedroom, an office, a backyard surrounded by trees. It was an old rich person's house. The only thing of note I found was a door leading to what I suspected was a basement with several locks. Even if I could pick one, there were multiple. I decided I wouldn't risk making the noise, and besides, he could open it for me after our chat. As I stood out in the dark, the noise and an ambient light from the TV radiated over the doctor and I. There he was, splayed out on a lazy boy, entirely oblivious. The anger began to build each abysmal snore that rumbled from him. All at once, anger exploded, and I knew how I would start the conversation. "Good morning, doctor," I said in a calm, even tone as I swung the bat hard into his defenseless kneecap. The crunch of the blow met a gargling scream as the doctor awoke, stupefied. Next, I shoved the wide end of the bat into the scream. "Hey, Dr. Sharp, is it? I always wanted somebody to be there to tell me good morning when I woke up from the stupor you put me in. So I figured I'd do that for you. I believe you know me, but I don't really know you. Maybe you could answer some of my questions, and I won't break your other kneecap." He glared at me, hatred spewing out of his every pore, slobber running down his chin. I slowly removed the bat from his mouth. 339, you fucking little shit. I should have let you die. Get out of my house. You belong in prison. He spit out. Literal spit flying everywhere. I shoved the bat back into his pile. His hands gripped the bat futilely, trying to remove it. "See, doctor? I know you're all alone, all the way out here, in the middle of nowhere." He exhaled sharply, slightly more relaxed. I noticed, but went on unfazed. "I broke into your house, and rather just tie you up, I said to kneecap you first, so you know how serious I am. You will answer my questions. Afterwards, I don't care what happens. You can go back to drumming up kids for the state. I don't care if I go to prison." I lied. "Before I do, you'll answer all my questions. If you do that, I won't kill you. If you lie or try to bullshit me in any way, then I'm gonna rearrange your anatomy." I pulled the bat out, and he exhaled again. Taking a second to realize the gravity of his situation. "Fine, ask your questions," he finally said, trying to show a veneer of bravery. "Great! Let's see first. Here's an easy one. See if you've been properly pacified." I grinned as I started to pace back and forth, blood from his knee dripping onto his beige carpet. Throwing his verbiage back in his face only caused him to fume more. "What's my name?" He was taken aback, his eyebrows crinkled, and as I learned, leaned in, making sure he got a good look at my face. The whiff of menthol was strong even now. "This is ridiculous. There are 500 children in my facility. I can't be expected to remember. Oh shit. This is ridiculous. There are 500 children in my facility. I can't be expected to remember all their names. But I know you. You're 339. You're one of the most important patients. I know all about you." "Oh, I'm sure you do," I retorted. I quickly conked him in the head hard enough to daze him, but not so hard he would pass out. I took the tape and scared him to the chair, making sure he wasn't going anywhere, unless I allowed it. Then I found some pliers from the drawer in the kitchen. He was coming to just as I began to pull... Sorry.
Good.
He was coming to just as I began to pull out his pinky toe. Not a number. My name is Lou. I yelled loudly enough so he could hear me over his own screams, and the bending and cracking of his littlest piggy. I then took the severed toe, flipped it around, and shoved it up his nose, nail end first. The smell wouldn't be great for someone as obsessed with the smell as he was. I hoped it would be just that much more torturous. He screamed and gagged, looking up at me through horrified eyes. His anger hadn't gone, but he realized he was just getting started. Fine. Fine, yes. Lou! Of course, that's your name. I'm sorry, please. Get it out. I'll tell you whatever you want, he begged begrudgingly. I snatched the toe and gently dropped it into the nearby car. He had passed out drinking. Okay, you can go. We can popcorn here.
Popcorn here, alrighty.
I'm liking Lou's torture methods. I think he might be.
He might be what?
I think he inherited that from his brother. You know.
Yeah. Well, and in a like a revenge story, I mean, that's always part of the thing is like they're getting revenge on someone for killing them, but of course they're going to become kind of evil in the course of seeking that revenge. And so for me, like, my whole thing was just like Lou's definitely going to kill people, and he's definitely, whatever, going to be, he's just not going to kill indiscriminately like Jeff. And to me, that's okay. That makes him better. You know what I mean?
Fair.
And so like, and maybe this is where the story kind of moves away from being like straight up horror or creepypasta and maybe goes into more of like super, anti-hero, whatever vengeful thing. Is just that it's like, I still want people to whatever be on Lou's side. I don't want people to be like, okay, Lou's just a complete psycho who, in the story, I feel like that position is still reserved for Jeff, but I can understand how like some people might be like, well, like it's not scary enough then if the main person doing everything, if the main monster of your story or whatever isn't just killing all these people or whatever. So I don't know. It's part of why I was like, I liked writing this story, but I could understand that like, maybe the horror elements are not the strongest part. And maybe that's the thing about me. Maybe as like a horror writer, maybe that's not where I shine. Maybe I want to tell more like mystery thriller type of stuff, or like, action, shit. But, and that's the thing about creepypastas is I feel like a lot of times they diverge into these action packed things. And so, and I was definitely going to do that. I was planning on doing that, early on. I was like, I want it to be, whatever. I want there to be a badass torture scene. You know what I mean? Like Reservoir Dogs style or whatever. Just crazy. So yeah,
I like it.
Yeah, cool. Hell yeah. All right, I'll keep going. But yeah, sorry, I'm trying not to go like too much into like hedging my story or into like over explaining it. But there are parts that just as like I was writing, I just kind of want to explain like why I did certain things. I think that's part of the fun of having me, the writer here, is that, you get to see like why my mind was going in certain directions as opposed to just like reading a story and just being like, well, that's the story. I figure it might be interesting to people to hear like why I wanted to do certain things, so. Anyways, let's continue.
Yeah.
I went on thoroughly questioning him about my conditions and medications. He explained between curses and death threats that you do need regular dialysis. The medications are to help control your stress and adrenaline levels, but they won't work forever. Your kidneys will fail without dialysis. All the medicines? I asked skeptically. Most of them, he went on, clearly hoping I wouldn't get the hint that he was not telling me the whole truth. The other bottle, the one that has no chemical label or description, is something you don't need to take. That's it. It's no concern of yours. I reached for the pliers, and he desperately stammered on, Scopolamine. It's scopolamine. I put the pliers down as he continued, tentatively hoping I would not pick them back up. A compound, that I combine with other barbiturates to make my patients more submissive and compliant. It's a drug used to treat motion sickness. Many people are unaware of its vast applications. Why would you let me go and still want me to take that? I was free. What do you care if I remain compliant? I asked coldly, disgusted by his reverence for the drug and quick admission of its true purpose. Because it will ensure you do what we want. People on the drug don't sue or file complaints. They don't cause problems. They just wither into numbness and obscurity, I finished for him, realizing if all had gone according to their plan, I would have stayed a prisoner for the rest of my miserable life. Yes, he gasped, clearly exhausted. Okay, Menthol Man, one final question, I said, as he looked up at me, clearly wishing I would just kill him. What's in the basement? Horror erupted on his face. He was desperate before, but now he was in a panic frenzy. No, I'll kill you. I ignored his thrashing and threats and searched him. His car keys were on the mantel, but a single solitary key hung around his neck. I took the key and unlocked the first lock on the basement. His panic turned to pleading. Please, just leave. You can have my car, just leave. I looked at the combination lock and back at him. I'll never tell you, he cried, no matter what you do to me. We'll see, I said coldly as I opened my backpack and took out the little bottle of doctor's specially tailored mystery drug. No, he screamed as I forced several pills into his mouth, plugged his nose, and eventually dumped the tall glass of alcohol with a pinky toe floating in it down his throat. The toe bounced and fell down, sticking between two rows of duct tape on his stomach. I forgot I wrote that part. That's funny. Rows of duct tape on his stomach. I'm sure he managed to spit some of the pills out, but not all of them. Finally, I went to the kitchen and grabbed a plate, and with the bottom of the bat began crushing up a few more pills. I took the plate over to him, and before he realized what I was doing, I blew the small mountain of powder into his face. The white flakes swirled and covered his face, a few landing on the toe beneath like the first snows of a violent winter. It took a few minutes, but eventually his wails quieted and his words became unintelligible. Then he was silent, meekly compliant. I asked him calmly as if I was asking for the date. What's the combination for this lock? 11-22-66, I heard him say after a moment, as if he was reminding himself. I punched it in and heard a click. Pulled the handle of the heavy metallic door as the heavy metallic door creaked open. Whatever was at the bottom of these cement steps, it was clear that it was all the doctor cared about. I climbed down the stairs anxiously, hoping that whatever met me at the bottom was somehow less horrific than the doctor's other callous experiments. The smell of cold, wet cement mixed with the scent of urine and was scored by haunting beeps. Oh, okay, yeah. Mixed with the scent of urine and was scored by haunting beeps. The site below looked like a hospital. The site below looked like a hospital suite met with a German torture dungeon, and had a horrific. Had met with a German torture dungeon and had a horrific medieval baby. On one side lay a terrifyingly opulent bed with red canopy sheets and pillows to match, a wall of various BDSM implements, all appearing to be well used. I turned from the sight. The smell of sweat and fear making me cower away, only to find an equally disgusting yet opposite sight. A hospital bed, modified to hold steel change, clutched a woman so frail and broken that I almost didn't see her. Her white gown camouflaged her with the bed sheets. As I looked at her blank, comatose face, it all became abundantly clear. The look she gave was one I recognized from the hospital, one I had seen on my own face in the mirror. This was the menthol man. This was the menthol man's typo here. Maddening objective. His tyrannical thesis behind all his experiments, to find a perfect way to pacify and make obedient this poor woman. I ran upstairs, not daring to touch the woman. God only knows how long she had been there. My mind raced as I thought of what to do next. I found myself saying out loud, "Why?" Suddenly, the doctor began confessing in detail about what he did to the girl and how he stole her from the hospital, all his disgusting actions. A plan formed in my mind. I began making preparations as he rambled on, clearly happy to talk in his drugged state. It took me nearly another hour, but I was ready. I went back downstairs, unplugged the IV from the tortured woman's arm, hoping that she was still able to remain passed out long enough for the police to get here. And all the horrible smells and sights of the basement, the most sickening one was the fresh smell of menthol that was evident on the woman. She wasn't the source, but you could smell it on her all the same. I then went upstairs and gathered all my things, leaving no trace of myself in the house. Last but not least, I dialed 911 and told them there was a fire at this address. And then I handed the phone to the doctor and told him to explain what he had done. He clumsily sat there on the phone, telling the operator every gruesome detail. As he spoke, I drug his lazy boy with him in it to the back patio. He continued talking to the operator, and I heard her say, "Fire and police are on their way. How old is the woman you've kept in your basement?" I smiled, happy that the operator was clearly shocked and taking the call seriously. Then I picked up a can of gasoline and lighter, and outside amongst the trees, I think I meant to say trees and country stars there, or amongst the trees and country stars, I doused the doctor's crotch in gasoline. See, here the typos are coming because I was rushing to finish it. I doused the doctor's crotch in gasoline. I had to make sure he never hurt anyone else, so I lit the gas on fire and heard his pacified voice transform into unadulterated, earth-shattering screams. I threw the lighter in the inferno on his lap and marched back inside. I was halfway into the garage when I heard a familiar voice on the television. I spun around, found the remote, and turned it up. It was a late-night tech business show that was interviewing a shadowy figure. The high-pitched, edgy voice rocked me to my core. The banner underneath his figure read, "Reclusive crypto millionaire holds investor summit for Killcoin. Let's just say this. If you buy crypto and don't attend this summit, you might as well be dead." The interviewer hesitated. "Other, more trusted coins are surely have less volatility." The figure laughed. The figure laughed a laugh I knew. "Killcoin is going to make sure every other form of crypto goes to sleep." Hee. Sirens in the distance. snapped me from my angry amazement as the echoes of the doctor's screams rattled in my head. I started his car and peeled out of the garage. Of course, my brother, the famous Jeff the Killer, became a goddamn crypto bro. I drove off as the sun rose on an unsuspecting world. The only thing I knew for certain, wherever that murderous crypto douchebag was, is where I was headed next. And that's the end.
I love it. I love it. I love that twist at the end. Jeff the Killer becoming crypto bro. I love it. I love it. I think that the BDSM torture chamber was a little crazy, but you know what? It went there, and I like it. Not that I don't like BDSM. I want to make that clear. I like the story. I like the story for touching on it.
Good, yeah.
I gotta ask.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I gotta ask. Where's the sequel, man? Where is it? Where's the? I need to see Lou the adrenaline junkie.
Yeah.
Battle it out with Crypto Bro Jeff. Where am I getting that?
So here's what I want to say about it. My original idea for the story was to have him just like confront Jeff the Killer, right? And it was to have, the only thing I knew when I was starting this was that I wanted to have him confront Jeff the Killer, and I knew I wanted Jeff to be a crypto bro. And my idea was to have Jeff is holding like this summit to be part of his new coins or whatever. But it turns out that it is like at a corn maze. And I wanted it to be just a place where Jeff was going to lure all these people and kill them, right?
Uh-huh.
And Lou was going to go to it and do all this stuff. So I have those ideas set out for the sequel. Sorry to spoil them, if that, bothers anybody, but I want to talk about it here. So I had that idea, but then in the course of writing this and like the notes about the menthol man and Lou trying to figure out like what's wrong with him, I found this like other villain or this other like thing that I was like, well, it would make sense for Lou to, whatever, if he is like an injustice collector, if he is somebody who's like, wants to right the wrongs that have been done to him. It's like, this is a pretty big one too, that they've just kept him drugged and kept all this time. And it makes sense because he doesn't know where Jeff is and this person is closer. So I know that like, people, I wanted the story to be about him going and finding his brother and whatever. But in the course of writing, the story changed. You know what I mean? I found this other villain that I kind of liked, or this other person for Lou to kill or Lou to whatever. And to me, I was thinking like, yeah, this will be a good kind of like a warm up or a good, it'll show that Lou like kills, but he kills with conscience, He kills a bad person. He kills a horrible person who has this creepy dungeon. You know what I mean? And it was just kind of a way for me to be like, oh, if I write this, then like, maybe people will get on board with Lou's story. Maybe they'll like him as like an anti-hero style whatever character, and then maybe if enough people seem to like it, maybe then I'll have the sort of the showdown be part 2, and so that's ultimately like what ended up happening. I liked this as a beginning and as a like origin story for Lou, but I agree it's not finished at all. And I do think, we need to have that like showdown. And the only idea I could think of is why I wanted it to be in a corn maze is because I think corn mazes are very creepy. Obviously, they're scary. People do scary corn mazes. Like, that's a very popular thing. But I also just was like, it seems like there's a way where you could do it where like, Jeff tells everyone that like, oh, there's QR codes hidden throughout the corn maze, and each one will offer you piece to a puzzle that can help you get access to this brand new whatever, and basically give you like $1 million or something like that, you know. And it could just be like a whole thing where he's just using money, you know, to lure all these people in, and then they all start just getting killed, you know. And I just thought that would be kind of a funny way to tie in not only like the crypto element, but just like just make it like a creepy middle of nowhere whatever style showdown where all these people are getting killed, Jeff's picking them off like flies, and who knows, maybe some other serial killers could be there, like I don't know, sky's the limit, right? But then to have Lou showed up, who's the one person Jeff didn't expect, and to have Lou show up and then them to have some sort of a badass superhero you know, good versus evil showdown, you know. And so that was literally like, you know, in the beginning I was like, oh, it's going to be about him and Jeff. But then as I just started to write the story, it just organically kind of went in this other direction. So I don't know, you know, maybe that's a bummer to some people. But it's what I was able to do in the time that I had. And I mean, I still like it to this day. I definitely, there's some things I maybe would have changed or tweaked a little bit there, but I just, as far as writing like an origin story for Lou and then setting it up for a situation to where he can take on the supernatural killing prowess of his brother, I was like, I think it's a good sort of a beginning, you know. Yeah, and that's pretty much it, you know.
I loved it. I had a great time with it. Yeah. Hopefully, I'm hoping, you know, it'd be fun to do a stream where if you read a sequel to this and I read a sequel to my Jeff the Killer story, it'd be fun to do a stream where we both, you know, read our respective stories. That might be fun to do.
Oh, hell yeah. For sure.
But I love this story. I love the way it was written. I liked the places you went. I love Jeff being the crypto bro because it makes sense. It makes sense for his logic. It makes sense. That's what happens when no Taco Bell. No Moss, I guess.
Yeah, no Moss. Yeah.
No Moss, so I guess he had to become a crypto bro. Makes sense to me. The logic is logicking.
Yeah, okay. And well, yeah, and that's like what I was kind of thinking is like, okay, if Jeff the Killer, like whatever, if he kills people all this amount of time and then I don't know, I just thought it would be funny to make him a crypto bro, but also I was like, of course, like the worst, you know, people can have crypto if they want to, but I'm like, the worst people in society are like the people who are fucking like all about it and like go all in, you know, blah blah blah. And I was like, and it seems like he could kind of build this cult around his like creepy, mysterious killer essence, wwhatever, and somehow parlay that into a crypto scam. You know what I mean?
Of course. And so, I like it. I enjoy it.
Yeah, that's where my mind was.
10 out of 10 story. 10 out of 10 story.
Well, I'm glad, you know, I'm glad that you liked it. There was some parts like maybe like the part with the librarian or whatever, the person at the library, like, I don't know, maybe because at first I was thinking like maybe I could give him a love interest, but now like in the course of the story, I'm like, you know, maybe not, or maybe she'll show up in part 2, like who knows. But I was like, I was writing kind of some open-ended pieces like that throughout because I thought I'd either A, have time to get back to them later in the story, or I thought like, you know, maybe once I knew that it was all going to be just a part 1, then I was like, oh, well, maybe I can continue that in part 2. But who knows, if I was to edit it today and stuff, like maybe I'd take some of those parts out, or, you know, I don't know if the Taco Bell part, this is just my own insecurity. I know that you liked it, but I'm like, I don't know if the Taco Bell part fully fits or needs to be like that
Oh,
long,
come on,
but
man.
I
You
love
gotta,
it, so I'm gonna keep it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
That's the point. That's
you
kind of
gotta
where,
keep the Taco Bell part. You have
yeah,
to keep the Taco Bell part.
right, okay. Well,
I
I'm
think it
good.
makes
Yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah, good. I'm glad. I'm glad you like it. I'm glad you can appreciate it as much as I did. And that's ultimately like I think why I wanted to read the stories, just because I had so much fun writing it. It wasn't, it's not my most serious story. It's not like I definitely got some other things that I've been working on like longer, or that I have I'm trying to like map out plot wise, and get the beats down so that when I go to write it, it seemed like, I don't know, hopefully it means more, and it comes around full circle in a better way. But I think for a story I was just making up on the spot, I think it worked out pretty well.
I love it, man. I
Yeah.
like it. I am glad I was able to read it. I'm glad to be able to.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Well, and that's the thing too. I'm starting to wonder is like, should I even try to map out plot point? Because I know plenty of writers, like they talked about like how Stephen King doesn't do that. Or I was so blown away when Dathan Arbach said that he didn't have like pen pal mapped out. You know what I mean? That he
Uh,
he just wrote part one, and it was kind of a beginning, and then he had like an idea of maybe where he wanted it to go, but that he just write the fact that he just writes that, in
huh.
the whatever, in the moment, and doesn't like map out the plot, and just how well pen pal worked and how well it like came around. I don't know, that's really surprising, and maybe that is just the type of writer that I need to be. I shouldn't try to map stuff out. But I don't know. What do you think? What do you do with your stories?
I
Like, do you know the end
I
before you start writing?
so I usually have like depends. Like if it's a multi-part thing, sometimes I don't know the end. I usually
Right.
like to know the end, but
Hmm.
I don't know how I'm getting there. Like
Yeah.
I know the where the ride starts and I know where the ride ends, but I don't know the stuff in between.
Right.
Um, but sometimes I just have an idea, and then as I'm writing it, I let the story take me where I want to go. Like when I
Yeah.
wrote my Jeff the Killer story, the only scene that I knew for sure was um the scene downstairs, like towards the end of it, when Lou goes downstairs and then gets hit in the back of the head and the
Right.
fire happens. Other than that, I had no other ideas. I didn't know what was gonna happen to Jane story. I didn't
Right.
know which parent I was gonna kill. I didn't know I was gonna keep the dad alive. It was just something that just like was coming to me as I'm writing, which I think is a really big. Now, if you're writing like a yes, please map out plot points, figure out where you want your story to go, because that's like a number one thing where a lot of people try to write books, and
Yeah.
it's like you need to justify why this shouldn't be like a short story and not
Yeah.
a book.
Right.
So, but if you're writing just like a Reddit post, then yeah, you don't have to write. You don't have to. At the end of the day, you don't have to like map out plot points. Now, if you know certain scenes and stuff, then yeah, that's helpful. But at the end of
Yeah.
the day, it's not the end of the thing, and it's not.
Sorry, you cut out a little bit there at the end.
Oh, I was saying it's not the end of the world if you don't know the exact plot point.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, I'd say that I agree, and I think I'm coming to realize that more, and I think that's a good point you said, where it's like if you're writing a novel, then yeah, you should map out a good amount of the plot, and you should know why something deserves to be a novel. Because if you're just writing part after part after part, and something, and it's like it just goes on and on, you know like it started maybe as a short story, but then it's like you're adding all this stuff, but then you spent so much time in earlier parts explaining things that don't really need to be that long.
Mm-hmm.
It can get messy. So I know what you mean. So in terms of, And I do think in some ways the Reddit like character limit is kind of helpful to make you
Uh,
to make you see like if you're going to have a multi-part, okay, well what's going to happen in this part, what's going to happen in the next part, and
uh,
what big payoffs can I have in each part to make the story worthwhile, all throughout. And I think that at least for writers who are learning, I think that is helpful to a certain extent. So yeah.
yeah. No, I like
uh,
it.
Hell
I'm
yeah.
glad. I'm glad I was able to read it.
Yeah, hell yeah, cool. And I appreciate you, reading it with me. That's just awesome. Here, what did PB operator said? He said, "I start with a shell of ideas I want to get to, and then just start writing. And if I can't make one of my bullet points fit, I have to drop it and put it in another story." Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. No,
I see
absolutely. I
that.
agree.
Yeah,
And I'll do a lot. I'll have a lot of scene stuff. Like, especially when I'm writing like my other non. I have like cool scenes that I want, and I know I want to, but I just don't
right.
know how I'm getting there and where I'm from.
Yeah, hell yeah.
It has the bare bones of a story
Right,
usually.
bare bones of the story, but yeah, not the
Yeah.
details. Nice. Well, yeah. Well, yeah. That's awesome, man. I mean, I think we've been streaming for a while now. I don't, or maybe I do have a time counter. I mean, it's been a good almost 3 hours now. But yeah, is there anything that you wanna like talk about, watch, plug? Any, I was like, we could go a little
Um,
bit longer here if there's anything else.
I will say I hope and pray we get to do this again. I'd love to maybe make this like a regular thing. We podcast type thing, even if it's short. We do like and we just talk, shoot the shit, everything like that. We can do that
Yeah,
once a week, maybe, or like once every other week. That we could also do like a recorded. I definitely want to get into probably after stream, but hopefully you guys enjoyed having me on the stream. I'm gonna work on my mic setup a little bit that way I can get it sounding better. But
yeah,
other than that, having a great time. I'm really enjoying this. Like this is super, like hopping on streams. I will say keep posted on my channel. Please go follow.
hmm
I have something really fun and really cool that I've been working on for a few months now. That
cool.
should be out soon.
Hell yeah.
So
Well,
really big, and I really wanted to. I've been spending a lot of work on it, so hopefully,
nice.
I think it should be out this month. Not this month, sorry. Probably beginning of next year, hopefully.
Okay.
But other than that, I hope to do this in the future. I mean, I had a great time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm fully down. To do it more, make it a regular thing or whatever. Like you said, yeah. Like you said, you might have had a little mic issues. Hopefully, you can get that sorted out.
Uh,
I think it might just be a level like peaking issue because
yeah, it def is.
okay, cool. Because I was like, when you were reading, it was pretty much almost perfect. But then, like, when you talk, or I don't know if it's like a talking speed issue too. Because, like,
Yeah,
it was like sometimes you would speed up and it would seem to cut out more. But I don't know. That's just kind of inside baseball talk. But it's the end of the
yeah,
stream, anyways. Who cares? But, yeah, no, I would love to do it regularly. And if we can get it to where it's sounding fine, then it's like yeah we could
yeah,
do it as much as we want. I'd be down to um just read stories together.
yeah,
Also it'd be cool to I like to get permission, and I will get permission pretty much for anything from the Creepcast community, but maybe there
uh,
are some classics out there that other people have like covered extensively already that like we could check out if there are some
yeah,
other stories that that you are like not enough
mhm,
people talk about this story, or this story's really funny, and no one's read it yet, or they, stuff like that. It's like I'd love to do that. I don't know if you caught much of my last stream, but going over voidlings, like Tales from Bikini Bottom and all that stuff. Yeah, he had some funny stories too, and obviously he's a Creepcast Discord member, but like that stream was just a lot of fun because I like those stories too, where they're whatever about cartoons or common media sort of thing. So yeah, I'd be totally down to do it more, man. And you are awesome, and you're great to talk to. And I'm glad I made a new friend. I feel like now that we've talked one-on-one, I feel like we'll be able to collaborate and just talk more, and that'll be a lot of fun. So
yeah, it's only up from here. That's what I think about. It's only going to get better.
Hell yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate you. Let's see, what did PB Operator just say? If you were to pre-record, you can have each person record their own PC, but you would lose the live interaction portion. Yeah, live audio is just a bit harder to deal with. Yeah, and that's kind of my thinking on it too. It's like we could do our best to try and make it a little bit better, but I'm not a professional whatever audio engineer, podcaster, and I think the way that I have to make content right now is just by going live, and just if the quality isn't great, then it just is what it is, and I can try to prepare as much as I can and stuff beforehand, but also it's just kind of like we'll do what we can, but yeah, I do think with the people just in the community and stuff, and talking, to people, it's like I'm learning things all the time, and I'm getting better. So hopefully just with time we can make it to where, because I know plenty of people do podcasts where, Creepcast is one where they're not together the whole time. I know together is better, or if you don't do it live, it's oftentimes better, but there's got to be a way to make it pretty reliable.
They record through Discord as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and the call. Like I hear you when I hear you talking. I hear you well, and I feel like there's not much of a delay or anything. It's just it's just sometimes things cut out, and no big deal. I have
that's what I'm gonna work on probably after the stream. We'll figure it out.
Well, no biggie, but I had a blast either way, and. I just we'll do it in the future for sure, and maybe we can get some other people on here too to like
I'll have to talk to I'll have to talk to like Darbo and Claw Q and maybe if, like some of the authors or something, see if we can get somebody on the stream. It'd be fun to have like I don't know, like 4 of us, 5, maybe not like a couple of us just able to talk, just chat about Creepcast and everything.
Yeah, everything, all the goings on in the world of Creepcast for sure. Yeah, no, and and like with my channel and where it's at now, it's like I definitely want it to be like horror and maybe like literature focused, and it's like I don't mind being like a Creepcast fan channel either. It's like that. I totally am that. The way I see it is like I am that, but then it's like also like if we just get to talking on a live stream and we're like talking about something else, not related, or we're like we want to watch this short film and whatever, talk about it. It's like that's great too, because it's just all it's all, in my opinion, it's just all organic and can go with each other. Like it doesn't have to be like, well, Isaiah and Hunter didn't post anything on their Twitter, this week, or they haven't posted a video, so we don't have anything to talk about. It's like, no, we can just meet up and chat, and see what's going on in the horror Creepcast world, So
but thank you so much for having me, man.
For sure.
I'm glad I hopped on.
Yeah, I'm glad you did too. Everyone support Professor Creepin. He's got a project coming out early next year. That's awesome. Go watch, his other breakdown videos. He's got some good stuff. He's also got some stuff on his Reddit too, which I don't know if I don't think I linked to your Reddit on the thing, but I'll add it to the description
It's
after the
okay.
fact. But
I'm all worried about it, man.
yeah,
You're
no,
good.
for sure. But yeah, just support each other. That's how we
Yeah.
do as a community. And yeah, and until next time, man. It was great chatting with
Yeah.
you, and I appreciate it again. You're awesome.
Of
So
course,
thank
man.
you.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me on.
All right. Well, here I'm gonna end the stream. So here we'll play the outro music.